Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Lab Rats Entertainment Podcast. My name is Ezra, and I'm joined by Sawyer and Ahmad. They're on different parts of the setup this time.
New room.
So, new room, new faces. No,
Not yet.
So we're back for the semester. So hopefully we'll be doing this a little bit more regularly, and we have a lot of stuff from the summer to talk about. This time, so we're doing kind of our summer recap show. But I think the first thing we've been dying to talk about since it came out was Spider-Man: Far From Home. Now,
so we're doing a different. We should probably recommend to them that we're doing a different format. Today
we're doing a different format.
It's a summer recap.
We'll be back with our usual sort of half hour this, half hour that,
our regularly scheduled program
at the end. But this time is just kind of our summer recap. So, yeah. And Spider-Man, I think, is the one that we can unanimously sort of agree was the... I don't know if I would call it the capstone, but it was
the biggest movie of the summer.
Yeah, it was the biggest movie.
Actually, after Endgame.
Yeah.
Well, this is the problem, though, is that Endgame, does it count as a summer movie? Because it came out all the way in April.
For us, it doesn't count because we were still in school.
Yeah.
So...
That's true.
We're counting from the end of May on.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. But yes, it was the biggest movie this summer. Sorry, X-Men. And...
Oh, man.
I really wish I had gotten to see that. I didn't get a chance.
Trust me, I'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, general impressions, anybody?
I mean, it was a film that I was excited for, but, I wasn't, dying to see. But I went to go see it with some family, and, they're huge Marvel fans, so they really enjoyed the film. And I really enjoyed the film as well, because it's
a great movie.
It is a great movie. Now, I don't know if it's better than... I keep forgetting. Homecoming, yes. I know there's home in it somewhere in there.
Actually, I liked it more than Homecoming.
Yeah, I think I like it more than Homecoming too.
Well, I think it's hard because I love Michael Keaton's performance.
He was
Homecoming.
great. Yes.
But equally much as so as is Jake Gyllenhaal's performance. And Far From Home, which could be.
Yeah, I mean, I would say don't worry about spoilers. We're far away from the movie.
Okay.
So.
I will say that even though I already knew the comics and knew how Mysterio ended up, I was still ended up being like, well, maybe he isn't in this movie, even though I knew inevitably.
Yeah, that's the one thing I kept throwing on in my head, which I think they did a really good job with was to a certain point in the film, and I was like, is he a villain or what's going on? And obviously they were I don't know if, I hadn't seen any advertisements for it at all, so that was kind of cool. So obviously I knew Mysterio was the headline kind of villain for the film, but I didn't know if they were gonna have a different spin on it, which I thought was kind of interesting. But kind of it was somewhat predictable that they were using the the geo the geo monsters with different elements of the earth, kind of using that as kind of a side for these are the villains,
kind of a fake out
almost like a vessel. For
good on them for that, because usually with Spider-Man movies everything's always on the trailer, especially with Sony.
You always know exactly what's gonna happen.
This movie did a pretty good job of I even went in thinking, so maybe just they tease Mysterio he's in the next one, but these elementals are the big ones. They had said in an interview that the sand one is Sandman or something like that.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So now it was a good bait and switch for Mysterio.
I will say the one thing was I liked the sort of Tony Stark thing where it's the Tony Stark's past comes to haunt Peter Parker. Mm-hmm. I liked that aspect of it. I will say it was a little disappointing that Mysterio wasn't straight up magical because it just kind of.
Mysterio's character? Yeah,
because it kind of takes away from the spectacle for me when I know it's all just a hologram. But I still thought it was great.
It is. It's really great. But I thought that kind of lent itself nicely with the message they were trying to go for. But one of my favorite scenes from the film is when Jake Gyllenhaal and Spider-Man, Tom Holland's character, they're in the bar.
That's so good.
I just love his acting because you genuinely feel he's there for therefore Peter Parker, therefore Spider-Man and stuff.
And then immediately he's
switches.
Like, "Can you get this stupid suit off of me?"
That also going off of that scene could be a little problematic because it could be viewed as force-feeding exposition. Yeah. But the way that Jake Gyllenhaal delivers those lines, I mean, like, if had it been any other actor, I don't think it would have worked as nicely. But since he did it, it made it like so much more interesting.
Well, I think there's that, and I think that like there's no other way to communicate that this guy is banding together with a bunch of different Tony Stark employees.
Right.
I think that's basically.
I think they also did a good job addressing the fallout from Endgame and all that. Like
just
saying, like, and suddenly they just appeared.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot that. Like kind of like infomercials that like they had, or not. It was like on the student news or whatever they were talking.
And addressing the fact that they didn't even know who Thanos was. Like to most of the world, it was just people disappeared and then came back.
Yeah. The blimp or whatever. The blip. The blip.
It's a weird name.
Pretty convenient that all of the main characters of Spider-Man all disappeared.
Yeah. Except for the one of the characters.
Oh, like the core group from Homecoming. No?
Right.
They did one of them just so they could.
Right. Yeah. I love the one character who like didn't blip and came back, like who was scrawny and like very nerdy and came back and like was really cool. Buff and kind of. Which was kind of cool.
I liked the thing where the teacher was like, "Yeah, my wife faked her own blip so she could she could run off with somebody else." I thought that was pretty.
Interesting that they used this like massive world thing, but they also used it on like a ground level, which I think is so great about these Spider-Man movies. Is they're addressing these massive stakes from the Avengers movies, but kind of making it seem like how's it affecting the little people. And that opening in memoriam scene for the Avengers kill in the battle was so funny.
Yeah, that was really cool.
That like copyright images thing right across the Iron Man.
I want to like discuss a little bit more of the thematic elements in the film. Yeah. So like, I mean, all throughout the film, obviously near the end, you kind of really understand what they're going for in terms of just like symbolism and stuff. But like throughout the film, you know, the characters would hint at like, don't believe everything you see on the news or like on the internet and stuff like that. And near the end, obviously with Jake Gyllenhaal's character, that was very strong. I think, which I think I like the themes in this film more than I did. I mean, Homecoming wasn't really. It was more of. There were some themes there, but it was more of like almost like a coming of age, but like more of a teen film. I think. Yeah. Whereas this one, the message was a little bit more, it was subtle, but near the end they kind of really.
I think like the arc for whole Spider-Man thing, at least the current Tom Holland ones, and we'll see if this continues at all, was Peter Parker sort of coming into his own as Spider-Man. Yeah. Because a lot of the criticisms I hear with these movies is that, Spider-Man doesn't act like Spider-Man. Yeah. But I think that's the point, is this whole arc is he's becoming Spider-Man. Right,
he is,
and I think he'll become the Spider-Man we know later.
Yeah. And bouncing off of that, I think this is a perfect movie for them to have after Endgame, like the major one, Endgame, because it really kind of sets up Tom Holland's character, Peter Parker, and like all the kind of the internal conflicts he's going through, and like whether or not he's going to live up to Tony Stark's legacy. Yeah. And I think that creates a little bit more depth to his character, with that kind of like anxiety, and kind of like living up to like this like almost like a father figure that he had, and now that it's kind of stripped away. What's he going to do? How is he going to act? And he kind of like he has to be more of a grown up pretty much, and not like the kind of kid Tom Holland that we.
Well, the best scene that describes that is when they're doing the
hallucination scene.
It's just like if you had been there, Tony wouldn't have died.
And that was
the suit crawl out of the ground was so cool.
That was such an awesome scene.
That's probably my favorite scene in the movie is when Jake Gyllenhaal basically just sends Spider-Man into this hole of weird illusions.
That's the most like comic book thing I've seen.
But like it worked so well though, and like I was genuinely terrified at some. I was like, what's gonna what's gonna happen?
Yeah, I was legitimately like, this is Mysterio.
Right. And like you kind of mentioned like how the hologram thing and like the kind of like the man behind like the like whatever like the controls and stuff, like kind of like a Wizard of Oz kind of thing. Yeah. That could be like it could.
That is very much the illusion.
The illusion, but that once he starts to make these hallucinations, I genuinely thought like Mysterio's character was very strong and very kind of terrifying. So I'm just like powerful. His technology could be viewed as like something that's like obviously like could be easy to kind of could be easy to take on or whatever, but with the hallucinations, I was genuinely like, what's gonna happen? Well, it's pretty strong.
The other aspect to him is that the little pods can actually do damage. It's not like they can't do stuff.
Right.
And that's the way the directors explain how when he gets hit by the Hydra thing in Venice, why Peter Parker's all soaked, despite the fact that it's drones. So like they have these things in them; they're not just all holograms.
It's not just a special. It's like the face is CGI, but not the water.
Yeah.
But I think what was really great. My favorite part is that it deals with legacy as a thing. Like Peter Parker is Tony Stark's legacy, but at the same time, he also has to deal with the fallout of that, considering all these other people were affected by Tony Stark.
Also, the manipulation of media and how that could you could skew people's views as to who's the good person.
There's definitely kind of a fake news bent.
Right in to the return of J. Jonah Jameson.
Oh my god!
It was the best thing ever.
I leapt out of my chair. I was so
excited. As soon as I heard that voice, I was like, no way.
I mean, arguably, I'm just like, we've always kind of been like, yeah, we want Tobey Maguire to come back, but that's, I kind of like them bringing back J.
If we're talking best comic book casting, it goes Robert Downey Jr., Hugh Jackman, and then J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons, that's awesome, and I'm glad they brought him back.
That was one of the most incredible surprises in a comic book movie.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And they modernized him too, so like, which I love how they did it in the PS4 game as well.
Oh yeah.
He's no longer just the guy writing the newspaper. He's basically your Alex Jones, talking about fake news and everything on his radio show.
He's a menace.
Right.
He's a menace. I wish he said that. He's a menace.
Oh man, I was so there aren't really words to describe how I was feeling at that moment. I was just like
that's
the glory.
People make fun of Marvel movies, but that's what I go to them for. Is those like childlike moments where you just leap out of your seat because you're so excited about what you're seeing on the screen. That's
Did you guys stick around for the end credit sequence?
I did.
Would you?
That I think at first I wasn't completely sold on it, but I think it adds to the whole theme of the movie of don't trust what you're seeing.
Yeah.
And,
I think it does that. The one problem I have is like, so the Skrulls are around and they're doing stuff. That's what they're establishing.
Well, Nick Fury's doing something in space.
Yeah, Nick Fury's performing some kind of operation.
It was just chilling in space.
Yeah, but
I think it's that they're establishing SWORD.
Oh, okay.
SWORD is basically the successor to SHIELD.
Right. Yeah.
It's like I guess the way they're trying to, I think, establish it is that after the threat of Thanos, they realized that Tony was right in wanting to create a suit of armor around the world, which is what Ultron was, but it didn't work very well.
Yeah.
And I think this is meant to be, it's kind of like a operating base space station in orbit around the Earth.
Okay.
And it's kind of like a new hub for the Avengers.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think they're creating SWORD in the aftermath of Thanos.
Right.
To prevent another Thanos.
Well, and this is probably, SWORD is probably going to be their setup going into Avengers 4.
Or 5.
Oh, 5.
Yeah.
That's right. It's not just one movie.
So I guess do you guys want to talk about the lineup that's coming up? Going kind of moving transition.
Yeah. I mean, so this is a
phone.
So this is a good
my laptop out.
Sort of segue into just talking about. So we're gonna go over some news that happened over the summer, and I don't have the full Phase 4 lineup in front of me, but if I forget anything,
I can pull it up on my computer here real quick. This is a relaxed show. I can pull my computer out.
So I think the biggest the first one is Marvel's Black Widow.
Black Widow, which is coming up May 1st.
Yeah,
next year.
May 1st,
2020.
I'm looking forward to it. I really wish that it wasn't a prequel. I really wanted it to start out with her and Gamora inside the Soul Stone. I think that would have been way better, and then it's just, Scarlett Johansson, Zoe Saldana, like the two biggest, I think we could say biggest female actors in Hollywood now, right?
Yeah.
Like
Zoe Saldana and Scarlett Johansson?
Yeah. And it's just like their Marvel movie.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They just sort of go and do things.
Right.
I think that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
We're not getting that.
A lot of people are excited for the film though too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The suit is interesting. The white sort of thing. Taskmaster.
Okay.
Well, I thought it was Red Guardian that we're fighting.
I think Taskmaster is at least in it. He might not be the big bad, but I think he's at least in it.
Yeah, but coming off going, I mean, which I kind of realize, May 1st, that's next year. So I guess it's kind of, there's
less than a year away.
Less than a year away, but like I guess it's kind of good that they're taking somewhat of a small break, maybe. But there's still going to be some stuff, obviously.
Yeah, I think they wanted to do kind of a trilogy thing with like Infinity War, Endgame, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And now that and Captain Marvel and Ant-Man were in there somewhere.
Right.
But I think and I think Marvel actually seems really poised to do this. They're just taking a little bit from releasing anything so that they can just amp up to Black Widow, Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I'm really excited for.
Doctor Strange is kind of like the next in the lineup.
Yeah, Doctor Strange 2 is the next
So I've got
movie.
the full lineup here.
Okay.
So we've got, I don't have all of the dates in front of me, but Black Widow, The Eternals, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
I'm excited for Shang-Chi.
Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Thor, Love and Thunder, and Black Panther 2.
Also WandaVision.
Thor, Love and Thunder.
We're just talking movies.
If we're going into TV series.
Yeah, well, so I would say...
You want to do movies first and then the shows?
Well, no. What I was going to say was the TV miniseries things that they're doing, I almost consider basically the same as a Marvel movie at this point.
They're just longer.
They're just longer. It seems like they're doing sort of like Sherlock style things with these miniseries where they just get a lot of time to tell their story rather than just...
Yeah, I think the only one that's not a miniseries is What If. That animated show.
Yeah, that's going to be like a 20-minute cartoon.
So, if we're in the TV series, we've got The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, WandaVision, Loki, Hawkeye, Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, and She-Hulk.
Yeah.
All of which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then they also announced Black Panther 2 at D23.
Yeah, I already.
Right. I was going to say, really fast.
It's a pretty great lineup.
Yeah, it's a really good lineup.
And presumably maybe Spider-Man 3. Maybe. We'll get into that later.
Well, but that might not even be in Phase 4, even if it was, even if we are getting it.
It could be a Phase 5.
Phase 5.
What were you going to say about?
I was going to say Thor, Love and Thunder sounds like it's another kind of like Ragnarok, where the aesthetic looked more like an 80s film.
Yeah.
Well, it's
more like Guardians.
Well, it's Taika Waititi's back, so we can expect more of the sort of Ragnarok style.
Right. You think Hulk will be in this one?
I feel like at this point Hulk is kind of a Thor character, actually. Yeah. Like even in Endgame, right? Hulk was basically just there to facilitate Thor's thing.
What do you guys think based on the lineup? Do you think it's hopeful? Can we expect more good things from Marvel? Do you think Marvel or do we...
I think they've gone full weird, is what I think
they've gone full comic book. Like, I think if you look at the trajectory of them, Phase 1 tried to stay really grounded and kind of like a movie that anybody could go to.
Yeah.
Phase 2 kind of dabbled in some weirdness, but it mostly stayed grounded.
Guardians, And
then Phase 3 just went full out, we're going sci-fi, and now this is just we're going comic book all the way.
Yeah.
We've got magic, we've got science, we've got time travel.
Yeah, right,
aliens.
Multiverse, it's going to be a Doctor Strange thing.
Yeah, so...
I think the one I'm most excited for is probably Doctor Strange.
Yeah, well, I think Elizabeth Olsen being in Doctor Strange 2 makes me excited for
I still haven't seen the first Doctor Strange movie.
You haven't?
No.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It's actually a really good watch.
Yeah.
I think it's probably, I think the reason why I'm most excited for it is I think Doctor Strange is a really interesting character, and he was one of my favorite parts of Infinity War. So I'm looking forward to seeing where they take this and see if he has any guilt over Tony Stark's death. Yeah. Because he's kind of somewhat involved in that.
Yeah.
I also thought their relationship in Infinity War was really great.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Man, I think and Shang-Chi looks like it could be really cool and add to Iron Man 3. Love and Thunder, I'm concerned about.
Yeah, I think doing the female Thor thing is...
They're going to have to play it really carefully to pull this off. I also think that, Natalie Portman, I think she's a good actress, but at the same time, she doesn't seem to me like she has the power to play Thor. But it could be interesting.
She's a really good actor, I think. I mean, I definitely think she could pull it off. I'm just interested to see how, because
she could definitely pull it off.
Yeah.
They're going to have to be really careful how they go about this and not just make it a gimmick.
Yeah, right, you're right.
Yeah. It can't just be a gimmick I kind of hope it's a one movie thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, because I think that would make it kind of stand on its own a little better.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if they were like, this is the new Thor for, the next 10 years or something like that. That's, they could do it, but it's less sort of impactful if they do it.
The only one of the movies that I'm not really just kind of on would be The Eternals. Like, I'll see it, but I'm not super excited about it.
Right, yeah.
Kit Harington will be in it.
He'll be the back. And Richard Madden, which means we're getting a Game of Thrones crossover.
Yeah.
And Angelina Jolie, kind of the biggest name drawn to the Eternals.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the TV? Oh, we didn't talk about Black Panther 2 yet.
Black Panther 2.
Black Panther 2 is a given. I don't know what else to say.
I mean, that movie's going to make so much money.
It's going to make so much money, dude.
So...
I think it could be good. I hope they do Namor in it. I've heard rumors about it being because they address underwater in Endgame briefly, like about the earthquake in the ocean. Yeah. So maybe we get Namor versus.
It's an earthquake under the ocean.
We handle it by not doing anything about it. I think it'd be good. I think Black Panther 1 is good. I
just want it to be about T'Challa.
Yeah.
Like the first one was about Killmonger, which is fine. I liked it, but. I want it to be, like, I love Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa.
Yeah, he's really great in the role.
And I want it to be about him and not somebody else.
Yeah. I hope they focus more on it being a Black Panther movie, especially what you're saying. Because Black Panther 1, while it was great to me, I didn't go as, like out of my mind for it as a lot of people did. I understand why to some people it was really
significant,
important. And I get it's really important, but at the same time, I personally thought the film, while it was really great, stumbled a bit in its third act. It kind of devolved down into being a standard comic book movie ending with, we have to stop that thing before it gets there.
Right.
Like, they didn't really...
Yeah, right. Try anything, I guess.
I think it was... but they had a strong setup for world building. The world building was great.
Really strong performances as well.
Characters were great.
The script...
Michael B. Jordan, I've always loved him, but he was really great.
The script is terrific in that movie.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything really wrong with Black Panther that I can think of. The only thing I would say is, like, the only thing I didn't get was, like, a character focus on T'Challa. Like, because he's just kind of... like, things are kind of happening around him that, he's forced to confront and deal with, but it's not
more of a character study. Hopefully the second one will
not even just a character study. I just want it to be like starring Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa. Because when you watch the first Black Panther, he's very often the sort of passive character in the scene. Yeah. And if he's active, he's either, kind of just winning the day because he can, or getting his butt kicked. Like, those are the two things that are happening.
I'm looking forward to it. I just hope that we get... Because I think what was really interesting with the first one was they didn't really have... Killmonger, was the bad guy, but there wasn't a clear, this is the good guy, this is the bad guy. Both made valid points as to where the future of Wakanda should go.
Well, and Killmonger kind of... won the day effectively. Like he changed Wakanda forever,
which is something that people thought was really Wakanda. But that's a point that people thought was kind of good because you have a villain that's somewhat sympathetic and understandable. Yeah. So that's why I think
that's what was good about it.
Yeah, but maybe in the second one, if they could
more clear cut.
Yeah, clear cut. I mean, that could be a possibility.
I wonder if this one also goes weirder because they already had him involved with Thanos and everything else. Yeah. I hope this one goes. Because it seems like based on this whole thing, they're going full comic book. Yeah. I hope Black Panther 2 gets weird because I like when these Marvel movies.
Yeah. More comic book based and stuff.
Yeah. Because the first one, as great as it was, it didn't really address comic book stuff. It was much more in the comic book world, but it was a real movie, a real life story. Yeah. I hope that it goes full comic book in this one with superpowers and weird creatures and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially Black Panther was definitely more of like a kind of Captain America type in that.
And they're going to have to address the fact that a lot of Wakanda got wrecked by Thanos in Infinity War. So.
Although in Endgame you kind of just see the fireworks and everything's okay now. So, who knows.
You want to address the TV series now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I hope is good.
I'm looking forward to that one. WandaVision leads directly into Doctor Strange 2.
They've also said it's basically Marvel's first sitcom.
which is super interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what the series is going to be. I can't say I'm excited, but I am intrigued.
Yeah.
I guess.
One, Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch is one of my favorite parts in the MCU. So.
Yeah, she's great.
I'm looking forward to that.
Loki seems like it could be interesting.
Loki is just going to be Tom Hiddleston playing Loki, and that's going to be the appeal of the show.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say about What If? I don't really.
I mean, I'm gonna I'm interested in that's the animated one, right?
The one where it's like the what if questions each episode.
Yeah. I mean,
it's kind of like
that'd be interesting.
I wonder if it's gonna be kind of like Love, Death, and Robots, where it's just like
I can almost guarantee it'll be
the animation style changes and stuff like that. That'd be
so
cool.
more like an anthology thing. Is that
yeah.
What so like is it gonna be like, you know how we talked about like Superman being in like a what if kind of world where what if Superman was like dropping like more of a communism, more like a like Russia communism or something like that, and he was a bad guy or something.
Yeah.
So like is that going to be like that, but with Marvel obviously?
Yeah.
Marvel
So like the first episode we know of so far is it's going to be what if Peggy Carter was given the serum instead of Steve Rogers?
Oh wow.
Or something like that. Just
okay.
That's one of the episodes they're doing, or.
I'd be interested in that. That sounds pretty cool.
What if the events of Civil War didn't happen, so the Avengers didn't break up?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Maybe they would have beaten Thanos or something.
Yeah. What if they bring back Robert Downey Jr. or Iron Man?
That'd be crazy.
Imagine that's the title. What if Robert Downey Jr. came back?
Yeah. And like they just bring him back.
What if somebody else played Iron Man?
That probably wouldn't be as
interesting.
But what if Iron Man 1 flopped?
Oh, it would probably
then
be
we
no.
would literally just not be right where we are.
There would not be any Marvel.
Yes.
Yeah, the Hawkeye show could be pretty cool, I think.
Yeah. I wish it was him passing on the torch, but whatever.
We're kind of hearing that might be the case because Kate Bishop's going to be in it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm interested. I mean, it's Hawkeye's never been my favorite character.
Right. Yeah.
Don't like Jeremy Renner, so.
Yeah.
Miss Marvel, again, could be interesting.
Yeah.
Never been my favorite character, but could be interesting.
Yeah, Kamala Khan.
Yeah.
I've always liked the idea. I've always been. I didn't realize that she wasn't just didn't have like. I always thought she just kind of had Captain Marvel's powers, but was like a sidekick kind of thing, or like she had her own series, but then like in the hierarchy of things, Captain Marvel is above her kind of thing.
Yeah.
But now I'm hearing that she's like a shapeshifter, and I'm like, huh, interesting.
And it leaves us with Moon Knight and She-Hulk.
Moon Knight, I know nothing about, so I can't
That's
really
the one
say.
I'm most excited for of the shows, actually.
Okay.
Because he's basically Marvel's Batman.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In terms of just like using gadgets, doesn't really have powers. I mean, that's kind of Daredevil, but
Right. Yeah.
mostly using gadgets and just kind of being the whole dark, brooding noir style thing. If they they should really make it noir style. I think we do.
That's a good idea.
It looks pretty cool. I think I'd watch it.
Now, She-Hulk finds itself at a time where Mark Ruffalo seems to not be terribly interested in playing Hulk anymore.
Recast him again. They've already done it once.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I just feel like a lot of these shows are trying to establish characters in the world. Is what it seems like to me. So
yeah. I think
and give Disney Plus content. So
I also feel like in a weird way, like they're kind of just like trying a lot of new things and like seeing what sticks or seeing what like because I feel like they're starting a lot of these new like they're bringing about these new characters and stuff, and they're gonna like in these new shows that with characters that we're not really that familiar with, or me personally I'm not familiar with, so they're just like we'll just pump out all these like this like somewhat weird stuff, comic book stuff, and see what people like and what people don't like and stuff.
Yeah. And I think the box office of Far From Home proves that even though Endgame is done, people are still interested in seeing Marvel movies.
Yeah, that's true.
One, there are like the Marvel brand has such a consistency to it. Like you go to see a Marvel movie, you know you're gonna get something at least pretty good, if not fantastic.
They haven't really made a bad movie. Like, they made some disappointing ones. Thor 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, Thor 2.
I mean,
those aren't really the only ones. I have some issues.
I didn't
with
mind Thor 1 or Thor 2.
I kind of, I kind of like both of them.
Yeah.
Too. Like it's and even like I don't know, some of the.
Keep going.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't really think of a bad, like a straight up just bad Marvel movie.
Yeah, I mean it's all been pretty good, but we'll see what's on the radar.
Yeah, we'll see.
But I guess I'm gonna move it along.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start talking about what I kind of saw over the summer. But also like more of like the indie kind of realm, and it's like something I'm a little bit more familiar.
So I think I want to do that.
Okay.
I think we should spend a little bit of time on Star Wars.
Oh, okay.
Because
before we go into our individual time.
Naturally. Yeah.
There's been just a bunch of stuff on Star Wars.
A lot
The new episode 9 trailer.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you guys absorb that?
I did not see it though. I want to kind of avoid it. I have only seen the teaser.
Do you mind if we talk about some things in the trailer?
Well, I've heard of like what
the big reveal.
The big reveal, which I feel like I should watch it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if you know the big reveal at the end, then
there's
you
really nothing else.
Yeah, so I mean, there's gonna be confirmed that
Yeah, confirmed Emperor Palpatine. Mm-hmm. We heard the Darth Vader sort of wheeze in the trailer.
I think it's kind of funny because they went from like a teaser that like had his laugh and hinted at it to like the poster and like the trailer where it just like flat out clear and obvious he's here.
Yeah,
that's
poster
basically saying, please don't be mad at us, come back, watch our movie.
Yeah. Sith Lord Rey is interesting.
It's gonna be a vision. It's absolutely a vision.
Yeah, I don't know why.
She's gonna go to Dagobah or something. She's gonna have a vision.
Yeah, it's Dagobah. Of course it's Dagobah.
Yeah, I was like...
If they don't go to Dagobah now, I'm gonna be mad.
Like, almost guaranteed.
That's where all the visions happen.
We did that with Force Unleashed 2 as well.
Yeah.
Other Star Wars stuff, I guess... My thoughts on the Rise of Skywalker trailer was really that I'm gonna see the movie. I think it looks good cinematography wise. I think that fight on the Death Star too looks pretty cool.
Oh wow! So Death Star. Oh, that's God. I have to see this trailer now.
I mean, it's really like 2 shots.
Okay.
There's not much to speak of because it's mostly like here's some footage of the new trilogy and then new footage.
Yeah. It's 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes, and the first minute is footage of the old movies. Mm-hmm. So like really, you get about 60 seconds of new footage.
Yeah. We're getting a lot of films for like these major franchises. Like I know. Well, Game of Thrones disappointed people, but Marvel thankfully didn't because that would have been kind of a lot
of endings this year.
And then
like a lot of them.
And then episode 9
endings, even though we're obviously getting more.
Yeah.
Well, endings to sort of specific
storylines and arcs. But episode 9, hopefully that doesn't disappoint people.
I think if this movie pulls it off, I think it couldn't. This movie has to do well because while I didn't hate The Last Jedi, I did have my issues with it, as with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think this movie needs to kind of bring back people and say, hey, we've still got it. This is a series for the fans as well as newcomers.
Yeah.
It needs to pull it all together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this movie just needs to kind of honor history, and then you can kill the past.
Yeah.
After you can kill the past, at the end of your movie.
Yeah. Not like, do it in the 3rd episode, not in the 2nd one.
Not in the second. What else?
Talk about the other big Star Wars reveal from D23.
Wait.
Hello there.
Oh yeah, Obi-Wan. I don't know how I forgot about that.
They're bringing him back.
I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, I really hope it's good. Like, I need this to be good.
It'll be 8 episodes of Ewan McGregor acting as Obi-Wan Kenobi.
So
it was supposed to be anything else.
It was supposed to be a film, but
because it into a show because Solo didn't do well. And
do you guys think that it's a good thing that it's a television show right now, or do you think, or does it kind of up in the air?
My only concern.
It depends on the episode length for me. If it's 20-minute episodes, I don't want that. But if it's hour and a half episodes, then great.
What's good is they have more time to dive into Obi-Wan as a character.
Yeah.
I also, knowing that it's going to be on Disney Plus, am not worried about its budget.
Okay.
I think it's...
No, yeah.
And I don't worry about, it's going to look cheap. After seeing the Mandalorian trailer, which we'll get to, I'm not worried about this movie, or this show having a budget issue.
Yeah.
I think they can pull it off.
Yeah. And it has a pretty big budget, if I'm not mistaken. Well, at least the Mandalorian
does.
The Mandalorian does. I don't know about the tape. I think the TV show.
I'm sure.
Obi-Wan. Yeah.
I kind of hope that Jon Favreau directs the Obi-Wan show.
No,
he probably will.
I think Dave Filoni probably will. Yeah.
If it's Dave Filoni, then all bets are off. But if it's not Dave Filoni, I want Jon Favreau.
I would hope they take their time with the character like Obi-Wan.
Oh,
because if they don't, it's pretty bad.
I think from what I've heard, like, plot details, is that it takes place around the same time period or, like, almost concurrently with Solo.
Oh, okay.
Which means that we could get payoff on the whole Maul thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
But it's going to be interesting, though, because they already dealt with Maul in Rebels. So
it's not like they couldn't have seen crossed paths or something, you know.
Yeah, I think, or they could theoretically just do the same scene, but from this perspective rather than doing it, because you're seeing that episode in Rebels from the perspective of Ezra, not Ezra,
not this guy,
the Star Wars character Ezra, and so we could see it from Kenobi's perspective instead. That'd be kind of cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do a kind of crossover thing.
And then I guess we could talk about The Mandalorian.
That trailer was pretty great.
Good.
I didn't. The one thing that confused me was I was assuming that the Mandalorian, was gonna talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
So maybe they were hiding it for some reason.
Maybe. They might have.
Ends up being Tamara Morrison. He's Boba Fett. He's Boba Fett the whole time.
No, Jar Jar's Boba Fett.
Jar Jar's Boba Fett.
What if that's what they're doing? Oh man, that'd be so good.
No, were you guys? What was like the most exciting or like shocking thing that was unexpected? Was it the Obi-Wan thing or was it?
The Obi-Wan thing, I think, because I had been.
It's what I wanted the most.
I think personally I had been kind of resigned to the fact that it was just not going to happen.
Especially after Solo.
Yeah, and then it happened.
Yeah, and hopefully they do it right this time, and it seems like they hopefully will.
Between Mandalorian and the Obi-Wan series and the Cassian Andor series, I think that pretty much confirms that the Solo movies are pretty much done.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, which
I'm actually kind of fine with, because
I wish if they give it a try with a character who isn't as like high ranks as like maybe like a Solo or Obi-Wan, maybe like something else.
Or just don't do it on specific characters. Like do a Solo movie like Rogue One.
Like Rogue One, yeah.
That's why I liked Rogue One, is because it was new characters, but it was a established part of the Star Wars lore.
So like that could be something like that where
I'd love to see a movie of, I don't know, a Solo movie that tells the story of just some random person during the Clone Wars.
I want who's the guy? The guy who has to wear the mask because he can't breathe. The Jedi.
Saw Gerrera?
Oh.
Oh, no, not the Jedi.
No.
Oh, Plo Koon?
Yeah, I want a Master Plo Koon series.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And I'd love to see a Kit Fisto series, a Mace Windu series. I'm sure Sam Jackson would do it.
Yeah. Sam Jackson's talked about, like, I bet he survived.
Yeah. But like these Solo stories, I feel like should just, if anything, create or add more depth to the universe rather than like build upon like these existing characters.
Which, and I keep saying this with Star Wars, is that it's such a massive universe they've created.
Yeah.
You can branch out and do other things in that universe. Not everything has to be connected to everything else.
And you have enough fans who are like adamant fans who would walk in and watch that. So like it's not like you're gonna be like, as long as the movie isn't something like Solo, you're not gonna have.
Like it made sense for Rogue One to be tied to things because it takes place like 2 days before A New Hope, so it makes sense to tie it in.
Right.
But like Solo, what I didn't like, spoilers for Solo, I didn't like how they tied Han Solo to the start of the rebellion.
That doesn't make any sense.
Because his whole thing is he didn't want to be part of the rebellion. Yeah. I don't like how they did that.
It feels like a weird retcon that doesn't make any sense with the character.
Yeah.
Looking back, I feel like Solo could have been a lot better, but I kind of like when I first saw it, I was like, you know what, it's like a nice little like it is Star Wars adventure movie that they were trying to make, but it could have been a lot better in a lot of ways.
There's just some really bad story decisions that they made. Is the
biggest
biggest problem with that movie.
A lot of bad story decisions.
I could get past the bad script if it weren't for the fact that he started the rebellion. That doesn't make any sense.
It's also like I think the first live action Star Wars movie to underperform.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
it's also partially because it came out like 2 weeks after Infinity War.
Oh yeah.
So why didn't they release it at Christmas? It doesn't make any sense.
It was stupid that they didn't release it at Christmas and that they released it like 4 months after Last Jedi.
Yeah,
because it's stupid decision.
So stupid.
Right.
Like they basically just decided to send that movie to die. Yeah. Like there was no saving it.
Yeah.
So you want me to real quickly, that way we can move on to our individual topics, just kind of rapid fire through the remaining news and anything you guys want to say about it, we can say.
Yeah, so
I got it on here if you want me to.
I can read off so Spider-Man leaving the MCU theoretically.
That
very sad.
It's sad, especially with how good we just talked about Far From Home.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we'll get more Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland.
Well, and we're certainly getting, like a Spider-Verse sequel.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, we're gonna get more Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. The question is, if this next one, Spider-Man 3, will likely happen, but it won't be directly tied to the MCU. They won't be able to mention Tony Stark.
Yeah. He won't be in a new Avengers movie.
Yeah, they can't use Happy Hogan.
Yeah.
So they're not. So pretty much the whole next Avengers thing. What's that gonna? Is that gonna still happen, but without Spider-Man, or is
probably?
Probably, yeah. Unless they can cut a deal.
Oh man.
Yeah. The deal originally, I guess the issue was, and a lot of people are blaming Sony, myself included, but then when you look more into it,
I think
you
Disney
realize it's mostly Disney's fault.
Disney has somewhat of a...
Yeah, Disney wasn't willing to budge on not taking more ownership.
Because the original deal was, I think, Disney would get 5% of the first dollar gross, and they had the merchandising, 100% of the merchandising.
Right.
Sony would get the remaining box office and foot the bill. So essentially, it was split even. Right. Disney wanted, on top of having 100% of the merchandising revenue, wanted to split box office 50-50, which without them paying to make the movie. So Sony would pay to make it, but Disney wants 50-50 on top of the merchandising.
Yeah. That's kind of absurd if you think about it. That's insane.
For a company that's really just saying, hey, we'll give you Kevin Feige and then we get to use him 3 times.
Also, Disney's becoming somewhat of a... I mean, it's
they are monopolizing.
I mean, like, they are. Like, I mean, like, it's just, like, that's kind of insane to think about, that they would want more money. Yeah.
Well, every company wants more money. Yeah. That's the name of the game.
But like the way that they cut the deal was pretty stupid. I mean, like, I don't feel like they're in a position to where, like, they're just like, we need... Like, they could make something like that. They need to make something like that. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, if they needed to, that would make more sense. But, like...
I just don't think Disney cares.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
Either way, they're like, all right, we don't have them. We're still fine. We're still making billions of dollars a year.
Yeah,
like, they don't care.
Yeah,
they
they have
like,
Frozen 2 still coming out.
And they've got Star Wars.
I mean, you look at any film that scores to anything significant this entire year, it has something to do with probably... connected to the Disney company in some way.
Like, they will literally have the top 4 highest grossing movies of 2014 or of 2019.
Of all time.
All time now they almost do because Avatar's theirs now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because Fox, right?
And Titanic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Titanic, right? That was a Fox movie, wasn't it?
It makes sense if it was.
Maybe.
So yeah, that's really sad. But on happier news, Sony bought Insomniac, which is pretty cool.
Which, ironically enough, gives them full control of the
Spider-Man game. Yeah.
Which that news broke on the same day too, which is like
so wild. There's something really kind of crazy about the sort of Marvel games thing. That's like they're so separate from the movies that they aren't really affected by each other.
Right.
It's so
I think
weird.
it's the way. So Marvel Games is owned by Disney. And they basically license out the license to these characters. License it out to Insomniac, who then cut a deal for that to be exclusive with PlayStation, aka Sony.
PlayStation published the game.
Yeah, and then Sony bought Insomniac, now giving them essentially control of
the Spider-Man.
That's
so it's good news though, because Insomniac is talented. They need the budget.
Insomniac is a great studio.
Yeah.
I think it's sad to say that now, even though I don't want Disney having a monopoly, it does make sense for Spider-Man to be home with all the other Marvel characters. Because now they literally own all of Marvel except for distribution rights for Hulk.
Spider-Man's
That's the only thing they don't have.
I was going to make a really stupid...
Spider-Man literally is Far From Home.
Far From Home.
Yes. Matrix 4 is a thing.
And
Keanu Reeves.
They're bringing back 2 characters who died in the previous films.
They're bringing back Keanu Reeves.
Matrix, I'm sure they'll find an excuse. They can say like, "Oh, it was an alternate reality." Or something.
Yeah.
It's it'll be crazy. I'm looking forward to it.
I hope it's good. I'm cautiously optimistic because after the end of, or I guess how some people viewed Revolutions, also the last 3 Wachowski movies haven't been great.
Sorry, I was going to also mention, I don't know if this is on your list, but we're going to continue, but Edgar Wright's making a new horror film.
Oh, it's not on here, but we can definitely talk about that.
Yeah,
That's
exciting.
Is it an established franchise or just original?
Original, I think. Ooh. So I'm kind of optimistic.
Yeah, so they're doing the right thing and not making a Baby Driver sequel? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I wouldn't want one.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Then we got Bond 25 is called No Time to Die. What do you guys think of the title?
That's a good title.
No Time to Die. I mean, sounds like it's something that fits because
sounds like a classic Bond movie.
Bond movie, yeah.
How do we feel about the 007 shake-up stuff that's happening?
What's that?
Oh, so Lashana Lynch, who was Monica Rambeau in Captain Marvel, at the start of this movie will have the codename 007. She is not James Bond, but she will have the codename 007.
Interesting.
I think it's super interesting. It's an interesting direction to take. I wonder if they're doing like a pass the torch thing where he's gonna be like at the end he dies and
well, I think from what I've heard, the original rumor was Danny Boyle was being the original director, wanted to kill off James Bond, but due to creative differences they cut him loose because they didn't want to kill off Bond.
Interesting.
So I think that might be why.
Interesting.
I want to get more invested in the Bond films, but that would be a pretty cool route to take to kind of pass the torch on.
I'm not totally sold because now I think it is a good way for them to kind of set up a new franchise without rebooting it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, to me, for these movies, I want to watch Bond as 007. It's the James Bond series.
Yeah, right.
Like, my issue is not the fact necessarily that it's a woman or girl, though I don't think that James Bond, like the character of James Bond, should be a woman because that doesn't really make sense for what Fleming wrote. But like, I have no issue if they want to decide making a black or an Asian or whatever Bond.
That would be. I could see how that could be problematic for a lot of the fans who are kind of like have seen most of the movies.
Yeah, like it lessens the blow for me with it being 007 and not Bond because it's
if it's
number.
like a new character, that
just
makes more sense to me.
But at the same time, if I'm going to be watching a 007 solo movie going forward, I'm going to want it to be Bond. That's just me personally, because Bond is just a character that I've been so attached to for so many years.
Right.
And I'd like to keep seeing Bond movies. Like, I think if he wasn't as old as he is currently, I would watch an Idris Elba Bond movie in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Like, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, I just wish he wasn't involved in movies like Hobbs and Shaw. I feel like he has much more...
Oh, trust me, I'm going to get to that movie later.
Much more potential, and because a lot of his more indie films are so fantastic. Like, his performances are so, like... amazing, and he keeps coming. I don't know what it is really. I don't know if he's like just a matter of money or something, but I think he has room to do movies.
I don't even know if he really wants to. Is my thing.
Yeah.
Bond?
Or no. Well,
what is it?
I think he's expressed as much interest as anybody in doing James Bond. Yeah. I just think for what you're saying, I think. Whenever I see an actor kind of go to, one of these series that's really not taken seriously, like Hobbs and Shaw or something.
It is for a lot of fans.
It is for a lot of fans, but even the fans are like, this isn't,
Yeah, it's not. It's
this isn't Citizen Kane.
You're not gonna. You're gonna walk in and turn your brain off.
Well, that's basically what I did.
Yeah, and I think whenever a well-established actor goes to one of those things, I think it really is just kind of like pay the bills.
Or sometimes they just want to have fun.
Yeah,
like,
that's true. I mean,
these Fast and Furious movies are stupid, but they're really fun. I'm assuming.
Yeah. And that's why people keep coming back to them. I mean, that's a good point. I guess what I'm trying to say is that he has the caliber for like one of those.
Yeah.
And I think he would do a really good job playing James Bond, but also if he were to like take something like a little bit more like. Something that's a little bit more oriented towards like what we think is like the Academy Award type of film or whatever, like more of a, I don't know if like Oscar baity, but like more of a significant role.
I think, looking at Bond, I'm hoping this is good. I hope it gives a good send off to Craig as Bond, because after this he's done from what we're hearing.
He's almost certainly done.
Yeah.
He's been saying I'm done for like 6 years, and he just keeps doing movies.
I hope it's good. I am concerned about the Lashana Lynch 007 thing. I think she'll be good. I think she's a good actress. I think it could be a good part of the plot, but at the end of the day, when there's a new 007 movie, I want it to be a new Bond movie. That's my personal take on it. But I have a feeling she'll probably be great in the role, and she'd probably be a great, I don't want to say sidekick, but like companion or co-agent.
Active character. I would want like her to sort of take the role of like another Starfleet captain in the Star Trek movies, something like that, where it's like she's just as important, but
kind of like
not...
what they were setting up Moneypenny for in Skyfall. Just like she's she's just as powerful, just as important, but she's not replacing the character.
Yeah.
She just kind of works in tandem with.
Yeah.
That's what I hope they do.
Although in this movie, we're definitely finding like a retired Bond.
Yeah.
So
it makes sense for the start of the story.
So anyways, that's more than enough Bond for for one day. Especially Ahmad's on a bit of a schedule, so gonna try to get his stuff in.
These last ones are really quick. There was updates for Battlefront 2. We're getting Felucia as a new planet.
Ooh.
And they're adding, I think, the clone commandos from Republic Commando. And new content for when Rise of Skywalker comes out. We just don't know what it is yet.
Sweet. I'm excited. That's like a kind of like every year I feel like I get excited for the blockbuster film or like the mega, like the big film, and that's the film I'm excited for.
Yeah, Star Wars.
Star Wars, yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. The Avengers gameplay.
Yeah.
I'm cautiously optimistic. Mm-hmm. I feel so. I liked Cap's gameplay the most.
Yeah.
And I probably liked Hulk's the least.
Yeah, Hulk's looks like very much like it's almost on rails.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to it, but at the same time, I need to see more. Because all we've really seen so far is that opening prologue. I need to see more gameplay outside of that prologue. I need to see how the gameplay mechanics work, what the general going forward is going to be.
Right. Yeah. Is Joker coming up?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Joker.
Joker's rated R.
Joker's rated R. Okay.
The director fought tooth and nail for that.
Yeah. Okay. And we got a new trailer.
Which
Ahmad, take it away.
I was very optimistic watching the teaser trailer.
Yeah.
Sat down and watched the extended trailer, or the actual full trailer, and wasn't as impressed. I don't know.
I felt like I was watching just like Oscar bait.
I was
live.
So
like, it's just like.
So I still think Joaquin Phoenix is going to do great.
Oh yeah.
I'm concerned about the script. I'm concerned about the script because some of those lines seemed like it was more of like a we live in a society kind of thing.
Yeah,
or
like
just
the memes you see about it.
So I'm just like, there's, the teaser kind of had hints of that, but like it wasn't as heavy-handed. But the trailer, the new one that came out, seemed like that it wasn't really being subtle about what it was kind of expressing.
Yeah.
Like the lines were very like
agreed.
Somewhat in some weird ways. I don't know. It kind of seemed a little cheesy to me.
Yeah. At the same time, though, with it being a trailer, they're trying to sell it for the general audience.
Yeah.
And I hate to say this sometimes, but most of the time, from what I've seen, the general audience does not, especially for superhero and comic book based movies, doesn't seem to pick up on a lot of that stuff.
That's true.
And so I guess for this is going to be the full trailer they show in theaters. They need to explicitly state in the trailer what it's about.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people. Some people, including that I've met, are not going to pick up on what's in that trailer.
Right, that's true. But I still think Joaquin Phoenix is going to deliver a great performance. The film still looks really great. The only thing I worry about is the script and the filmmaker behind the script.
Todd Phillips?
Yeah, and his work.
Yeah. He has made some good stuff, but very different stuff.
So and like also that's one thing I kind of want to clarify is just because you've made different stuff, like comedies per se, doesn't mean... you can't make really great dramatic pieces of work. So I'm just like, that's not something that I'm kind of judging the filmmaker from. I'm just curious as to how the script plays out. I don't know.
I can already, and the audience probably won't know this, but I did meet with I talked to Professor Ostrowski briefly about this, and he made a point that I completely agree with, where he said, I can't wait for all the fanboys to get upset about this movie. And actually, now I can see what he's talking about with this. Because it's going to be...
It's not a movie for the fans.
It's not going to be a comic book movie. It's going to be very much a movie just with the concept of the Joker.
Which is kind of my biggest issue with it.
Well, also another issue that I just remembered. Sorry. One shot specifically reminded me of V for Vendetta with the Joker. I don't know if I should... This is more of a spoiler, but like with the Joker and like everybody else... like they were on a train and they all had Joker masks, and I don't know if, because Joker is very much he's a symbol of like anarchy kind of in a weird way, or like against the system.
He's in recent years he's more of a symbol for just utter chaos.
Yeah, and going against the kind of system or whatever, and like being the odd one out and stuff, which I could get behind, but I don't want it to be like. I don't want it to be very heavy-handed. I want it to be a little bit more subtle, because Joaquin Phoenix is able to deliver subtle performances. But if he's saying lines that don't make sense, or like that are somewhat cheesy, and are, I don't know, just like very cliched, if that's the right word, then I don't know if I'll get behind that. But we'll see. I like it. I'm gonna go watch it, obviously, and I'm still excited for it. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how it's gonna end up.
I'm interested. I do think though that it's good that they're keeping the concept of the Joker right, but people should not go into this movie expecting it to be a superhero comic book movie.
Yeah, which is what which I really got behind the film with, because hopefully it is more of a character study, and hopefully it's something different.
Yeah. Well, I think it's gonna be great. But I'm looking forward to seeing, and I still think he's going to be the Joker that we know.
Oh, yeah.
I just think people should not expect Batman to show up or anything.
No way. It's
going to be like one of those.
Oh, there's almost certainly an end credit scene with a Batman illusion. That you're not. This is DC. We're not getting that.
Well, I'm talking about in the main story.
In the main story, yeah. But we're like. Don't expect no Batman. That doesn't make any sense.
I look at this movie as kind of like an Elseworlds story, where it's going to be like Gotham by Gaslight or a Killing Joke or something, where it's basically just its own independent story.
It's a little individual thing.
It's coming up, if I'm not mistaken.
October 8th, I think.
Yeah, close. Oh, it's that weekend of Gemini Man, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And
I'm excited for Gemini Man.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And last bit, this doesn't really matter, but Krypton was canceled. Speaking of DC.
Poor Krypton.
I was really excited for it, so it doesn't really affect me.
The show on Sci-Fi Channel.
Oh, so it was. Oh, so
it's already 2 seasons in.
And was it? I'm assuming.
I didn't watch it, so I guess
it wasn't doing good.
Apparently they introduced like Lobo and Doomsday.
It's some weird concept, like doing Jor-El on.
No, it wasn't even Jor-El. It was Jor-El's dad.
What?
It was Superman's grandfather.
Granddad.
DC is missing out.
But it's
this is the age of superheroes.
But it's like a teen dramedy about
Superman's grandpa on Krypton.
It's
like imagine that pitch. It's a teen drama about Superman's grandpa on a different planet.
It doesn't make any sense.
DC's missing.
So anyways, Ahmad's on a schedule, so
you're
going first.
Start with you. What did you watch and play this summer?
I watched a lot and I played a little,
but I've still played nonetheless. I got my fair share of gaming in. But starting off this summer, I watched. I kind of discussed this already. Watched Godzilla King of the Monsters. Absolutely horrible. Hated it. The only redeemable thing about it was seeing monsters clash, and that's really all fans would want to go into a film like this.
I feel like that's the only thing you go to Godzilla for.
Yeah. After that, I guess I also discussed in a previous podcast that I binged the Lord of the Rings extended cuts.
Oh yeah.
So, and those were really good, and they still hold up. It's funny because I mentioned that I saw the Hobbit films and I liked those, but I hadn't seen the Lord of the Ring films.
Yeah,
so
I quite like the Hobbit movies.
Which I guess is kind of the way you're supposed to watch it, because technically the Hobbit's a prequel.
I saw the Hobbit trilogy first, and I would still say watch the Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Ring movies, yeah.
Really
But you could look at the Hobbit movies almost in the same vein as the prequels for the Star Wars films.
Yeah. Honestly, most people do.
That's literally how it works.
Yeah.
Like although I will say Tolkien did write The Hobbit before he wrote Lord of the Rings, if I'm correct.
They were made as if they were prequels rather than
and then next up, I don't know if I've talked about this in a previous podcast, but the first live action film that Disney came out with for the summer was Aladdin. I saw that.
Oh yeah. I mentioned that.
I might have mentioned it. I might have mentioned my disappointment.
Yes.
I was very, very disappointed. But that same day, I went to go see Booksmart. Yeah, and I really liked that. And
I'd heard that was good.
Yeah, that was another. I guess the first indie film of the summer that I saw. That was I really liked, directed by Olivia Wilde. I don't know if it's her. I don't think it was her debut.
I think it was her directorial debut.
Okay. And it was really good. I can't remember after having seen the film, I couldn't remember the last time I had actually laughed out loud at a comedy film, because recently, I feel like comedy films have been
there haven't been a lot of good ones.
Yeah, I feel like the comedy films now are what horror films were in the early 2000s.
You have Daddy's Home 2.
Yeah.
Good Boys.
Yeah. So it's
and
it's kind of weird because it's kind of an inverse thing where it's just comedy movies in the early 2000s were really good, and because I feel like there was somewhat more of a need for that because of maybe the times.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
but now it's like horror films are becoming like very kind of
they're having a resurgence right now.
Resurgence,
Yeah.
but I mean, like obviously you had really good horror films that came out in the early 2000s, but now I think they're taking more of like a artistic kind of approach, and like
with like Get Out.
Hereditary, Midsommar, I'll get to that, and Us.
Kind of like different takes on the genre rather than
right, and those are becoming more popular, mainstream, and they're kind of becoming a little bit more like accepted by like more critics, I guess, or like people who were like before were like, yeah, we don't look at horror movies or sci-fi films.
However, though, you still get your generic Annabelle creation, stuff like that.
Yeah, and people still go to watch those.
It's because, and this is a slight tangent.
No, you're good.
It's because they always have those horror movies have always been teenagers go on dates to them and they don't really care how good they are.
Yeah,
they just go because I'm going to jump. Like
I mean,
horror movies have been that way since the 80s.
Right, exactly. And I mean, and that's still gonna keep going because like you'll still have films that appeal to teenage audiences, and they'll do whatever they can to do that.
Yeah. Get that date money.
Get that date money. But like there's Midsommar came out. I guess I could. I guess I could talk about that. Ari Aster's second film. He directed Hereditary, which is also his directorial debut, which was a fantastic film. Midsommar was equally as good, maybe a little less. Maybe not as impactful as Hereditary was for me, but there were really intense sequences. Near the end of the film, I really felt like I was on shrooms, and and people who've seen the film know why.
I've got a plot synopsis, so I know the idea.
Apparently, it's it's a really accurate kind of portrayal of how it feels to be on shrooms with some of the visuals they have.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, usually with films, it's very kind of cliched where it's just whoa, colors or whatever.
This is wild.
But with Midsommar, it was kind of more realistic, I guess. Which is cool. Yeah. Went to go see it around 11 p.m. and got out 1 p.m. and I was really interesting.
Isn't there going to be an extended cut with an 40 minutes?
Yeah, that's coming
that?
out soon. So I'd be interested. I would go see it again, but it's going to be a trip because it's one of those movies where it's just you kind of contemplate seeing it again because it's a really weird film, but it's really cool. There are a lot of cool shots as well.
That reminds me of a topic we should probably do in a future episode of talking about extended cuts.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Which ones are good, which ones are bad.
Yeah. I'd be interested in that.
The Avengers Endgame extended cut.
Does it
not
exist?
very good.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's just not. It's basically non-existent.
Yeah.
The extra theatrical release.
I would watch that. But so second live action Disney film I saw, Lion King.
I saw it too.
Which was also it was better than Aladdin, that's for sure. But
that's probably because it was just more of a straight retelling.
Yeah,
right?
And it was also a shot-for-shot remake, except it also wasn't in a weird way because they also took out a lot of scenes from the original one.
That's weird.
All the good scenes. Wait, what's up?
They took out a lot of the songs too.
Yeah, all the songs. And they two. And the ones that they kind of kept, either they shortened or they there was one song that was from, I believe, Beauty and the Beast.
Well, yeah, they started it, but they didn't do it.
They did, which I thought was kind of interesting. But
So did you guys see, somebody did some art where they took shots from the live action remake, and they...
Live action.
Quote unquote. But they took shots from the remake and drew up the animals to make them look a little bit more like their cartoon versions. Did you guys see that?
I haven't seen that, but I want to check that out.
It looked really... I thought it looked really great, and I was just thinking in my head, you had Genie, and he's blue, and you had in the Beauty and the Beast remake, you had little candle, the little sort of household appliance people roaming around, stuff like that. That was part of it, and I was wondering why they didn't. I know that they were really going for this really high fidelity these are what lions look like kind of thing, but I was still in terms of what I want to see a kind of live action interpretation of a 2D animation thing, whereas
that'd be pretty interesting.
I would have liked that more than what we got.
Sorry, you could. I was gonna kind of go off, but also going off of that. the CGI looked stunning. It was really photorealistic, which is a really good thing, but also somewhat detrimental to the actual story, because one of the other biggest criticisms is that the animated version of it was a lot more. The faces of the characters were a lot more emotionally kind of like giving and stuff, and you could actually see their like facial expressions and stuff, whereas with a photorealistic one, they're kind of I mean,
they can't emote.
Can't emote, and their facial expressions weren't as like into like what they were actually feeling.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I'm sorry I took your point.
But you're good.
I think this all comes from. I know I saw a video where the argument was basically just like it's easier to kind of emote in an animated version, and the visuals are just as important as the audio when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah.
So if you can't tell what's going on with the visuals, then the audio is not going to save you.
Some of the more impactful scenes that were like in the original one didn't have the same impact in this one because of the facial expressions, which I kind of talked to multiple people about. But I mean, it's really hard because I don't want to take anything away from the people who are who the team behind, like the countless of people who are behind like creating the photorealistic CGI, because that's stunning and that's groundbreaking.
Yeah, they did the animation is industry standard level animation.
Yeah,
like it's really good.
It's the best. It's the best that I've seen so far.
Well,
and like they keep improving.
I think that this was kind of the point the whole time, though, was that this was always just a glorified tech demo, right?
Yeah,
like
that's basically what it is.
Also, I think everybody's been honest about that.
Yeah, and
the
Jungle Book, the Jungle Book kind of had the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where it's just like you go to see this like photorealistic, like this stunning like technology that we've just come out with. I also want to talk about Jon Favreau and like.
Oh yeah.
I think he had a little bit more like input or like say to like change some stuff with the Jungle Book, but with the Lion King, it really felt like he didn't have much say in it, and I felt like it was just like it was a piece of work that Disney really wanted to keep like and not experiment much with, like keep like to the original, which is where the issues kind of came.
The Lion King is like their holy grail.
Yeah,
like that. Like the Lion King is sort of Disney,
like represents Disney in a lot of ways,
even more than stuff like Cinderella is. Like the Lion King is sort of what a lot of people look towards when they think of Disney.
It's their original story. Most of the classic ones were not original stories.
Right. But yeah, I think maybe because Jon Favreau is a really good director. Maybe he's a good actor as well. But I think maybe. I don't know if they should have experimented with something like this, because it is something that really people want to come to, because like they want to get kind of like they want to be pleased, and they want to like they don't want like I guess it made sense because Disney didn't want to take any risks with, especially with a franchise or like a film like The Lion King, which we just talked about, like the significance of for Disney. So I guess it kind of makes sense that they didn't experiment with it, but it kind of makes me excited for a film like Mulan, where it seems like they're taking a different route with it.
They're taking a more sort of Chinese action movie route with it than doing
or like
Chinese
history route.
Chinese history route, and it's going to be more. It's going to be more based off of the original story, if I'm not mistaken, the Mulan story. And if we're not, so I love Mushu. I love his character. And I'm not really that hurt that he's not in this movie.
I'm gonna miss songs like "I'll Make a Man Out of You" and all of the other stuff. But if they make an awesome movie out of it, then that's all that really matters.
That's all that really matters. And like, what I'm happy about is that they do. It does seem like they're taking a different route.
Yeah.
And the story seems like it's going to be something that's significant and meaningful. So and that's gonna be kind of cool to see. But yeah, it kind of like what if like they took like a Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon kind of approach with it. I feel like that'd be kind of cool.
It looks a lot like Crouching Tiger.
Like
I know,
yeah. So I was just like, if you gently like directed it, that'd be pretty cool.
I'm really excited for Mulan after that trailer.
I mean, it was right.
I'm gonna be interested to see if there's any hit to the box office after the controversy that just came out.
Oh, with
because apparently the lead actress playing Mulan is supporting China against Hong Kong.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So I'm wondering if that's going to dip into the box office at all.
Especially overseas, maybe.
Especially
overseas it'll take a hit. Over here, people are
going to forget about it before it comes out. But if it's going to hurt the Chinese box office.
Oh yeah.
Or actually, in some case, it probably could actually grow.
It might grow the Hong Kong box
no,
office.
it'd be the other way around. It'd grow the Chinese. It's gonna hurt the Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then lastly, I guess another film that I saw over the summer in theaters. I saw a lot of films outside as well, but I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
How is it?
The Tarantino movie. And I'm gonna be honest here because I've heard a lot of people like say different things and different criticisms, and I don't want that to skew.
Lots of different voices.
That's not gonna skew my opinion, but I genuinely enjoyed the film, and I thought it was a really good time, and I also thought that Tarantino, he's normally able to do this, but with this one specifically, this one seemed like, if you're not a filmmaker, you'll definitely enjoy the film, but personally, me being involved in like the filmmaking process, I appreciated it much more. And I feel like you guys would too.
Okay.
But like watching that film, I mean, it's a very kind of almost like a slice in the life of like these characters kind of thing, where you have these different stories, and sometimes they don't really go anywhere, which could be problematic. Sharon Tate's storyline, I don't want to get too much into spoiling.
I haven't seen it personally.
Yeah. They don't really go anywhere with her character, and she's not as involved in the story, even though it's
that's Margot Robbie's
character. Even though this film is supposed to
she's
be
based on a real person.
Right. Yeah. And I don't want to get too so. All I'm gonna say is Tarantino has like a kind of a niche for skewing or changing history.
I mean, Inglourious Basterds basically.
And more of a fan-pleasing way, so the same thing happens here. And in Django Unchained is another good example of a slave whipping a white man, like a white slave owner. Yeah. So I'm just like, that's kind of pleasing for an audience or whatever. But
to kind of change it to basically the ways of it being, it doesn't always go the way you think it's going to go. Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess I don't really I don't have a issue with, but it was problematic, I know, for a lot of other people. And also the fact that it may have been too long for other people. For me personally, I enjoyed every second of it. Also, Brad Pitt and Liv's chemistry on screen is impeccable. It's unmatched, especially because they haven't even acted with each other before in any other film. But
I'd say the controversy mainly, and I don't want to go too far into it, but I think it mostly stems from that's just the era we're in. Partially.
That's true. Yeah.
That, and I also think it stems from the fact that, as opposed to Inglourious Basterds or Django Unchained, these events were much more recent than those.
Right, that is true. Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, that's I saw some other films also. I saw The Witch, directed by I think Richard Edgers, I think. Or
I heard it was a pretty good. I heard though that it's a slow burn.
It's a slow burn. Yeah, this was a film that came out. It didn't come out recently, but
2017.
Yeah, 2017. But
that's right.
I had taken. It took me a while to watch it, and people had talked to me about it, and I really saw it because. It was on Canopy, and Canopy's I recently learned that Canopy, or I downloaded Canopy.
Oh, you didn't know about this?
Well, I did, but I because I used it for assignments before for class and stuff. Okay. But I recently got it, and I looked at their library and stuff, and they have a lot of really cool films that I didn't know about.
They've got lots of stuff.
Yeah.
And if there's anybody at home listening, most of the time your public library provides a free subscription to it.
Yeah.
So.
And it has a lot of some indie films, Academy Award kind of nominees and stuff, and.
Or if your public library doesn't do it, if you're a college student, your college will pay for it.
Yeah, and they have a lot of films. I know there's the Criterion Channel came up, but they have a lot of Criterion Channel or Criterion films on there.
Criterion stuff. They got a few sort of.
There's a lot of Japanese film.
Lots of Japanese film. They've got a few sort of the higher budget things like a couple Nolan stuff.
Nolan.
I mean, that's where I watched Memento.
Yeah.
That's where I watched it too. Yeah.
So they have stuff that's not really obscure, but also somewhat mainstream. But now at least.
Yeah.
But
it's I would say it's 90%.
Yeah.
Atypical.
It's a lot of documentaries too.
Documentary stuff.
It is a lot.
And I feel like I'm going along on my topic, but I guess to finish off what I was talking about with The Witch, it's it is somewhat of a slow burn, but it's a really it's a terrifying film.
Okay.
And it's also it's a film that I would say kind of aided this whole movement of horror films becoming a lot more acceptable and kind of like this resurgence you mentioned of horror films. And another thing was the same director is making a new film called The Lighthouse with Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, and it's shot on 16 millimeter, and
you don't get that very often.
Yeah, you don't.
No,
yeah,
you don't.
And I think it's pretty cool because I think
16. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
I mean, usually if it's film at all, it's 35. It's not 16.
Yeah.
Wait, that means it'll be in like 4x3, right?
Yeah,
that's
what
crazy.
That's what the trailer is. It's actually like it's pretty much a square. But
that's wild. I can't believe anybody has the guts to
I
do
can't believe
that.
any studio signed off on that.
Yeah.
But it is very much like a kind of like obviously an indie, lower budget film. But
It's pretty great.
yeah, and
I just can't wait for all the people coming out of the theater complaining, why is it not?
Why are there boxes on the side of the screen?
I hate that comment so much.
yeah,
No.
I will say I started watching Star Trek: The Next Generation over the summer. This is an aside.
Yeah.
And I will say it did kind of bug me a
Yeah.
little bit. It's not enough to get me to like turn my brain off about it or something like, but it did kind of like.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because like that's kind of like growing up watching things on TV, like our older TV.
Yeah.
You would watch things on like 4x3.
It used to be just in 4x3 just because that's how it was.
But Robert Pattinson is in it, and he's a terrific actor. He was
he's
in Good Time.
He's grown kind of past the. He's sort of grown infamy past the Twilight thing.
And,
Batman.
He's Batman now. I was gonna say,
Yeah,
what do you guys think of that?
I think he can pull it off. I think he's gonna have to bulk up, but I think he can pull it off.
Oh yeah, he's too scrawny right now.
He's going. He's kind of his kind of like actor kind of persona or whatever is getting past that Twilight Zone like pretty boy thing to where more of like an actor who's versatile, especially in a Good Time.
Sorry, no, he doesn't do that many interviews, but the ones he does nowadays are like super awkward.
Oh, he's always like, so what do you think of Twilight? And he's always just like, ugh.
Right.
He clearly, and like some people are mad at him because he's like, you should respect Twilight. It's what made you famous. Not every actor is going to love all of the work that they've done.
Alec Guinness was not happy with Star Wars.
Like most people know him for Star Wars, but that's not his most favorite role, or wasn't his favorite role. Like I'd say, like he should understand that, but to some point, if I was him and I was in something that I worked on that was clearly just a paycheck, I'm not going to pretend and say, "Oh, thank you to Twilight," because it's.
Well, and you have, Doctor Who. I think is a really good example because they just keep cycling actors. I think you get very different responses from people as to what they're. Like the different actors who have played the Doctor, you get very different responses based on which one you talk about in terms of did you like your time on Doctor? And most of them will say like, oh, I loved the production companies and stuff like that. And I thought that was.
I think it's really interesting when actors like that, like where actors kind of have to move past or go beyond what made them famous. Kind of like you have examples. Margot Robbie's a pretty good example where she was in like I don't know if like all of her filmography, but just like the kind of first thing I became aware of for her work was Wall Street, Wolf of Wall Street. Well, that's the first movie I've seen her in. And then her making I, Tonya, like she really proved how versatile she was and stuff.
Oh, you're forgetting her Oscar-winning movie Suicide Squad.
Oh yeah, that's a pretty big one. But also Ryan Gosling is another example where he's kind of like he was in The Notebook and he's kind of like that's more of a pretty boy kind of thing. And then I mean obviously right now he's moving into he did La La Land, but like
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
Drive was another. Good
Drive's great.
Yeah, Drive is really good. But yeah, I guess that's
it's just a lot of stuff that he did. Ahmad had to leave, so hopefully he'll be able to stick around for the whole episode more times this semester. But
now we get to cover what I got through this summer, and boy, do I have a list.
Yes, no, I've looked at it a little bit, and it is very, very thick.
So, do you want me to start with my favorite thing that I watched this summer?
No, let's go from least favorite to favorite. Okay. End on a good day.
Well, I don't know if it'll be entirely from least favorite to favorite, but we're going to end with my two favorites.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to start off with, this summer I suffered through the Resident Evil movies.
Okay, how was that?
And I don't mean the CGI ones, I mean the live action Mila Jovovich.
No, you said the CGI ones
the CGI ones
are actually great. But the live action ones. How'd you feel about them?
The first two they're dumb and they're clearly early 2000s, but they were fun. They also had tenuous connections to the games.
Okay.
Like in terms of Raccoon City and the mansion and all that stuff. I mean, it wasn't the same mansion and it wasn't the same issues, but they at least did at least in the first one, oh, we're in this secret mansion we don't know anything about. There's zombies and all that. The second one did Raccoon City. After that, the third one was basically Mad Max. The fourth one, I don't even remember what happened in the fourth one. I think that was like Dawn of the Dead spin off or whatever. And then the fifth one was they were in some kind of like underground lab, I think. And then the sixth one was like post-apocalyptic.
Okay.
So I guess they're all really post-apocalyptic after the second one, but yeah, they kind of suck. The first two are dumb fun. My biggest issue is the fact that even though they're Resident Evil movies, the characters in the games either make glorified cameos or they don't even act like they're actual characters.
Okay. That's a shame.
Then I watched The Predator, the 2018 version. Movie's
Not
kind
good?
of a mess.
Okay.
It has some good ideas. I also thought that I'm glad they made the Predator look like the Predator as well.
Oh, yeah.
It gets way too complicated of a plot for a Predator movie.
Mm.
I was wanting just another one of stick a group of mercenaries in the jungle, they're getting hunted by the Predator.
Yeah.
This one, it has like secret shadow government agencies. It's got a super predator hunting a regular predator.
That's weird.
One predator, spoilers, but I don't think it really matters. This movie's been out for like 2 years. There's a predator who comes to Earth to try to provide weapons to humanity to fight another predator because since climate change is destroying Earth, the predators are trying to kill as many of us as they can before we all kill ourselves. That's literally a plot point.
What?
And the predators go from planet to planet, collecting the best humans on each planet to upgrade themselves because they're all obsessed with upgrading their like genetic upgrading. And so there's literally a plot point where the predators want to weaponize autism.
What?
Because one of the main mercenaries has an autistic son, and apparently they're saying like he's the most powerful or like the most important of them all, and so the predator kidnaps this kid because he's autistic. It's like, what is this movie?
It's both like super pandering and super offensive at the same time.
Like I remember seeing this movie and be like, but why? Like
it's that meme of Ryan Reynolds just going,
like,
but why?
Yeah, it was just weird.
That is weird.
Yeah, I didn't get it. Also, Olivia Munn had no business being in this movie. Like, her character didn't matter.
Okay.
There's also this one hilarious scene. This is basically a spoiler, but so this group of human mercenaries fights this like shadow CIA type agency that's apparently working on trying to dissect and understand the predators or whatever. They had this big shootout, and all of a sudden some predator shows up and they're like, wait, ceasefire. And all of a sudden everything's cool again, and these two groups work together to try and fight the predator. I'm like, so you just killed a bunch of each other and you're all just cool now? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, that's the Predator. I saw Conan the Barbarian, the original version.
How was that?
It's a bit dated by today's standards. It's still fun as long as you know.
When did it come out?
82.
82. Okay.
But it doesn't feel like an 80s movie. It feels like it. I don't want to say timeless because that makes it seem good. I mean timeless in terms of the fact that like it doesn't really feel like a specific era.
The aesthetic holds up.
The aesthetic holds up as its own thing outside of it being a specific.
Like an 80s movie.
Except for there's one effect that is very clearly an 80s effect. Like this like red lightning thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fine. It was Arnold being Arnold. I didn't go nuts for it, but it's one movie that you're gonna watch, and then within 2 days you'll probably forget you watched.
Yes.
Lots
Upgrade. Of movies are like that.
You and I, you've both seen Upgrade.
I haven't seen Upgrade.
Ahmad's the one. Okay.
Ahmad's the one who's seen Upgrade. I know the premise at least.
So Upgrade was something I saw one on HBO Go and figured, why not? Put it on. I kept forgetting that it's Logan Marshall Green and not Tom Hardy because they both look so similar. But it was pretty good. I'm a little bit torn on the ending, but I think it's an interesting ending.
Okay.
It's very much a sci-fi noir type film.
Oh yeah.
But it's also another kind of a Black Mirror-ish type thing of careful what you do with technology.
Yeah. Well, and it's also an action movie, kind of.
Some really creative action scenes too.
Yeah.
Like there's this one scene where slight spoilers but not much, where the AI in his body gets turned on to like fight back because it knows how to fight, but doesn't know how to fight, and so he has to kind of act as if he's the one. He's doing his actual fighting choreography, but he has to physically act as if he doesn't want to be doing it.
Yeah.
And he pulls it off really well. He keeps like crying, saying I'm sorry," but he's also punching and kicking at the same time.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. I like the way he pulled that off. They also set up a really interesting world.
Yeah.
However, the main bad guy is not menacing in the slightest.
That's disappointing.
He looks like he works like a Home Depot. Like he doesn't even look, or like a Subway. He doesn't even look that.
That is offensive to Subway employees.
Hey, I have friends who work at Subway, so I can make that comment. But yeah, it was all right. We already talked about Far From Home, so I'll skip that. Hobbs and Shaw.
Now, I have thought that this movie basically just looked like Action Set Piece, the movie.
Basically.
Is that what it is?
It's another one of those, we have to go get this big MacGuffin that's not defined very well and have funny banter along the way. I'm going to spoil this because you don't go here for the plot. But it's doesn't make any sense really to have this Fast and Furious spinoff. Also, I will save the Fast and Furious plot canon connections for later. But yeah, there's a ridiculous cameo by Ryan Reynolds at the beginning of the movie.
What?
And I did not see it coming. Like there's this he plays a CIA agent who's like a handler for Dwayne Johnson's character. And he just pops up and I was like, wait, what? And like I started hearing his voice. I was like, no way. He pops up and then Peter from Deadpool 2 pops up on the other side.
What?
Yeah, they both pop up in this movie. It's like, why? What are you doing?
Wait, is it a Deadpool crossover, or is it just...
I can't even tell. But when I look at... There's plenty of cameos. The biggest one was Ryan Reynolds, but there's plenty of cameos. Yeah.
Hobbs and Shaw.
It was fun. If you're a Fast and Furious fan, you'll probably enjoy it. It's basically clearly that because Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel don't get along, Dwayne Johnson gets his own series, Vin Diesel gets his own series. I guess it's stupid, it's dumb, but it was fun.
Okay.
And it's also pretty funny at times, too.
Okay.
God of War 2018.
This is the kicker. This is the Game of the Year winner.
This game was amazing. Now, it's jarring at first because it's very different from the God of War series of the past.
Yes.
But it's a pretty fun time. It's basically all about Kratos having to learn from his past mistakes and kind of mature, as well as teaching his son not to be the rage monster that he was in the past. The Norse aesthetic looks really nice, and that's really it.
Okay. Not much else to say about it.
There's not much else I can really say without spoilers, except the combat's really good, the Norse aesthetic is nice, and it's got a really interesting and surprisingly heartfelt story for God of War. That, and then the gameplay, I was surprised at first, unlike, the whole, we're going from point A to point B kind of platforming.
Yeah. It
kind of ends up becoming, there's one map, and it's semi-open world, meaning it's open world, but you have to have, it's kind of like Metroidvania almost, you have to have certain items to get certain places.
Yeah. You kind of get funneled in certain directions and stuff like that. Yeah.
I recommend playing it if you're a God of War fan. If you're not a God of War fan, you can still play it without having had to have played the other ones. I would look up maybe a plot synopsis, like a 5-minute recap, if you're going to.
Yeah.
But you don't really need the others to play it.
Okay.
I still recommend the added context. Yeah. Plus, the other God of War games are just great games. So.
Yeah. So you've talked about Watchmen previously on the show.
I watched it again. It's good. Check it out.
Terminator 2, you've also talked about on the show.
Amazing movie. So. Watch it again. Check it out.
Mission Impossible Fallout. How did you feel about it?
It is one of the best action movies ever made.
Really?
Yeah. The action set pieces in the series continue to impress me. The amount of action movies I've seen, most of the time I see action, I'm always like, oh, it's cool they did it. This movie was managed to make me go whoa, for some of the stuff they did.
Nice.
Tom Cruise actually did a halo jump out of a plane. That's
pretty great.
Yeah, that was great. The helicopter stunts were great.
Is this the one that he broke his foot on?
Yeah.
So his sacrifice was worthwhile.
Yeah, it was every scene in this movie is expertly put together, and I'm amazed at all the twists and turns that Mission Impossible does are still so creative. You know about the masks and everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's always great. The action always is filmed great. I mean, the villains in this series don't really matter. You're there for the
They never have.
The villains, but except for Philip Seymour Hoffman, and the third one was really good.
Okay.
Yeah, Mission Impossible series continues to get better and better with each movie. I highly recommend watching them if you haven't.
I've only ever seen the first one, and I really liked it.
They get, with the exception of 2, they get better and better.
Okay.
2 is the most early 2000s movie I've ever seen.
Okay.
It's they had a Limp Bizkit cover of the theme song. There's another theme song by Metallica. Tom Cruise wears a leather jacket, sunglasses, and has long hair for most of the movie. And
that's funny.
For some reason, they have a cameo from Anthony Hopkins. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's weird. It's stupid, but it's fun. Not as good as the first one, but everything after it has gotten better and better.
Good.
I will say tone-wise though, 3 through 6 have 3, 4, 5, and 6 have the same kind of tone and style. The second one and the first one have their very own distinct style. The first one is very much meant to be a Bond-esque movie. Yeah. The second one is very early 2000s. Yeah. Everything else is very much your high-tech spy movie.
Okay, yeah. I think Tom Cruise movies, I think we just have to mention Top Gun 2 is happening.
Oh, yeah. I think it'll be good.
And he did not confirm that Danger Zone is not going to be in this one. So, he literally said, I can't talk about it. So it was like, it's happening. Mad Max series plus game.
Yeah, so I watched all Mad Max movies again. This is probably like the third time I've watched them all. The first one is still good, but you have to go with the mindset of knowing that it's very dated. Yeah. It's not going to be the Mad Max movie that you know from Fury Road. It's a very different movie. Yeah. It's more of a character piece. There's action scenes, but they're few and far between. Yeah. It's also not really post-apocalyptic in the sense that we know from the others. It's the world, I guess the way it's explained is, originally it wasn't supposed to be post-apocalyptic, but the only places that they could afford to shoot the original one were run-down places. Yeah. So they later just explained it later that it was. And so the first one was later explained away by saying that it was only the start of the end of the world. It was, there was still some society left, but things were still starting to crumble apart. And by the time you get to The Road Warrior, my personal favorite one, you get classic Mad Max. Okay. Road Warrior's just, it's super 80s, it's super fun, it's got a really cool aesthetic, I love the cars, it's always weird, but they're really great. Thunderdome, I concur. It does feel a little bit jarring because there's 2 plots, and it feels like, based on how it was in real life, they took 2 scripts and kind of mashed them together. Interesting. There's one that was basically a post-apocalyptic take on Lord of the Flies, and then one about Thunderdome, and they took those 2 and just kind of mashed them together. And it is very jarring because they go to 2 different places, and it's still worth a watch. Tina Turner does a great job. The songs are great. The effects are great. And the Thunderdome scene alone is really cool. Okay. And then Fury Road, I'm sure we've talked about that on here before, but...
Have we?
It's a great movie. The action's great.
Fury Road's good.
Cinematography's great. I hope we get another one someday because they're good movies.
Yeah, I don't have like the history of having seen the other ones before seeing Fury Road.
You don't really need to.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll say about Fury Road is that half the time I had no idea what was going on. Yeah, I was just like, what is
the Mad Max movies after the first one? You don't really go in for the plot.
Yeah, there's some thematic stuff I understood, but in terms of like the actual plot, it was like.
And with the Mad Max movies, the order you watch them in doesn't really matter. Yeah. Because as long as you watch the first one first, because it's how Mad Max becomes mad. Yeah. If you watch Road Warrior, Thunderdome, or Fury Road in any order, it doesn't really matter. Yeah. Because they're all basically the core concept. They've kind of turned Mad Max into being a legend. Oh. Okay. Just like the legend of Mad Max in terms of him just out in the desert in the wasteland helping different groups of people he comes across. Yeah. That's really the general plot of every movie after the first one. Yeah.
The game is good?
I had some issues with it. There is some significant frame rate dips that I did notice.
You played this on PS4 or something?
Yeah, I played it on PS4. It had some frame rate issues. It kind of chugged along a bit when there was a lot of enemies on screen at once. There were some dialogue issues of like the dialogue would be good but the lips weren't moving or something like that. Yeah. So like technical issues aside, it's a really good story. It takes some time to get going because the story doesn't really kick in until like the last 5 or 6 missions.
Yeah.
It's mostly just all about you wanting to upgrade your car after it was destroyed at the beginning of the game. And so, and this is, I guess, knowing Mad Max, Max has always been kind of a passive character. He's always just kind of there and things happen around him. That's kind of how this game is he just keeps going places to upgrade his magnum opus, or the car.
Yeah.
And then the plot just kind of happens around him.
Okay.
And he doesn't really get involved until towards the end. But it has a really depressing ending, but it fits Mad Max.
Okay.
I recommend trying out the game. Technical issues aside, I mean, really, other than I never had any game-breaking issues, except for I did have one where I was in. There's like this. It's a very. I guess I should go back to this first. It's a standard open world type game.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna have your camps to complete, towers,
map discovery.
Yeah, it's the same way as all of them. And there was one camp I was liberating, and I got stuck in this corner, and I couldn't get out of it.
Huh.
So I had to restart the game. That's the only game-breaking issue I had.
Okay.
Other than that, it's just some frame rate issues, especially when you start have either a lot of people on screen at once, or you start moving really fast. But it gets the aesthetic of Mad Max done right, and getting in that car and starting to go to just car combat feels really good.
Okay.
Having that car just ram head-on into one of your bad guys feels really good. Yeah.
So.
Even if you're not a Mad Max fan, the game you can get for like $15 now. It's not a bad.
Nice.
Not a bad game.
Injustice 2.
Yeah. Just beat it like 2 nights ago. Story's really good. It's very comic booky.
It's very comic booky, but if you go in thinking you're gonna get the same thing you got in the first Injustice game, you're wrong.
It's not the same. Now,
it's not
things.
the same.
My only issue without spoilers is that even though Brainiac is the main guy, you don't get a big focus on him for a lot of the game. He's kind of just the catalyst for things. He's
kind of the he really is just kind of the dark side of this game.
He's really just the reason the plot gets going.
Yeah.
But they did him pretty well enough, I think. My favorite mission in the game is when you go to Gorilla City as Green Arrow and Canary.
That was fun.
That was great, and they had a great dynamic.
Yeah.
Canary ended up being one of my favorite to play as, actually. She's great.
Interesting.
The DLC characters for the Legendary Edition are pretty great, too. Ninja Turtles, Hellboy,
Adam, and Enchantress. I think those are 4.
And then of the DC characters. Because they also had Raiden. Raiden was from Mortal Kombat.
Oh, right.
And Scorpion, I think, or Sub-Zero, one of the two. I think it was Sub-Zero.
Yeah. It was Sub-Zero.
Yeah, it was. And there was Darkseid. You could play as Darkseid.
Oh, yeah, Darkseid. A lot of people don't have him unlocked just because
you don't have
they didn't pre-order him or something like that.
The only way to get him is you either pay $6, pre-order, or you have to have the Legendary Edition.
Yeah.
I just bought the Legendary Edition because it had all the DLC on the disc. But and there was also pretty cool premiere skins where you can download. You get Power Girl as a skin for Supergirl.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Grid for Cyborg. John Stewart Green Lantern for Hal Jordan Green Lantern.
Yeah. And then there's also a Reverse Flash for Flash.
And you can get Black Lightning for Raiden from Mortal Kombat.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It's a pretty good game. It's dumb, fun, comic book style, but if you've played a Mortal Kombat game before, it's the same type of combat.
Yeah, it's a
the same people.
It's a NetherRealms fighting game. That's the one.
Spawn, the cartoon. Well, I guess I shouldn't call it cartoon because it's more of an animation.
Yeah.
I only watched the first season. It's all I had time for.
Okay.
But the first season was pretty good.
Okay.
It is not a kids series in the slightest, despite being animated. It is very dark, very bloody, very serious. But it pulls off the character of Spawn well, and the animation style is very like Batman the Animated Series in terms of that noir, like kind of dark city-esque feel. Even if you're not a Spawn fan, I'd say check it out because I typically, other than the old like Michael Jai White movie, I hadn't seen or read anything else Spawn, and I was hooked on the show. It's pretty good. Yeah. We'll skip this next one because it was one of my favorites of the summer.
Yes,
so we'll come back to that.
Well, and I think, we'll come back to that one. Dark. Actually, let's hold off on Dark Phoenix too.
You want a mod here for that?
I want a mod here, and I want to get a chance to see it before we talk
the Blu-ray
about
comes out on the 17th, I believe.
Okay, so we'll talk about X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Yeah. We'll hold off on X-Men Dark Phoenix for like another 2-3 weeks. Then that leaves
Toy Story 4. Did you talk?
Well, I already talked about Toy Story 4 in a previous episode, so
theoretically that may not have been one of the published ones.
It was on the Pixar one, I think. I think I was on a previous episode, so I'm not going to talk about Toy Story 4, but it was good.
Yes. Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I watched the first 4. I was gonna do. I got the Blu-ray set of all of them.
Okay.
But I got distracted. And
wait, how many are there?
There's 11 currently.
11.
Well, actually, wait. Okay, so there's 1 through 8 of the main ones from Paramount, and then it got to Warner Brothers for Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X.
Okay.
And then there was New Line made a remake and Freddy vs. Jason.
Okay,
so there's 12.
It's 12, yeah. And people think, Marvel is like we're at 22 movies, but it's all like different franchises where it's like...
Granted, that was over 10 years. This is over like 20.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, they're stupid. They're very much, as we were talking about earlier, of the date horror movies.
Yeah.
They were fun, though. Like, if you watch with a group of friends just to laugh at or have a good time, they're fine.
Good.
The third one sucks, though.
Okay.
Because it was meant to be like a 3D movie. It's called Friday the 13th 3D, but it's a lot of those shots where like they clearly have the shot just for the 3D effect.
I remember those days, man.
Oh, it's bad.
I will say one of the only things that was like shot for 3D that I think did 3D really well was actually the Doctor Who 50th anniversary special. Used, instead of doing the thing where it like pops out at you, there's a little bit of that, but they did a lot more sort of depth in the screen because they did like some 3D painting stuff. It was really interesting.
The only other 3D ones I remember seeing that were like that were Journey to the Center of the Earth and the Brendan Fraser one.
Yeah.
That and Spy Kids 3D.
Spy Kids 3D, Shark Boy versus Lava
Girl.
Girl.
Yeah, that one. Sure.
Yeah, those days were great, man.
Yeah. Then we got Sixth Sense.
How was that?
I watched it for the first time. I already knew the ending, obviously.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard being a film fan to not know that ending. But I thought it was still pretty good, even though I already knew the ending. It was good to see Bruce Willis actually trying in a movie. I don't see that very often nowadays.
This is a sort of Haley Joel Osment sort of...
I wasn't expecting it to be as scary as it was. I thought it wasn't really scary, but like spooky. But it's still pretty good.
Okay.
I was a little bit underwhelmed in terms of everybody builds it up as like Shyamalan's best movie. Personally, I think Signs and Unbreakable are both better than this movie.
Okay.
But I know that's like blasphemy to some people, but I think Unbreakable and Signs are both better than Sixth Sense.
To be fair, Shyamalan is like so divisive that it's just so hard
It is better than The Last Airbender, though. And The Happening.
Yeah, I mean, most things are better than The Last Airbender.
So the movie. The show is great. Yeah.
Good Omens. Don't say too much about it because I want to watch it. I wanted to watch it. I
definitely think you will like it.
Yes.
Michael Sheen is great in the show, and as is David Tennant.
Yes. I was going to say, I'm going to that show for David Tennant, not Michael Sheen.
It gets a bit confusing towards the beginning, but I do like the way how they take your Christian dogma and mythology kind of stuff. I don't want to say myth, but like that whole kind of like story and elements.
Yeah.
And put their own twist on it.
Yeah, no, yeah. I've watched like the first, I think, 10 minutes of the first episode, and what I saw was great, but it was just like I liked the spin on like God's voice as a woman, and like there's the whole like the dinosaurs. The scientists haven't gotten that joke yet.
And Frances McDormand does great as the voice of God. She's really great at it. And okay, you want me to tell you who plays the voice of Satan? Do you know who it is?
I don't know.
He only has like 2 lines.
I'm sure it's like Danny DeVito.
No, he has 2 lines in the last episode, so it's not like, but it's Benedict Cumberbatch as the voice of Satan.
That's hilarious.
But they do. It's a really great show. I also like how they managed to poke fun and kind of like satirize some Christian elements, but at the same time, it's not with any malicious intent. Yeah. It's just a way of just kind of having like some good fun.
It definitely looks like having good fun with Christianity.
Yeah, it also doesn't take itself seriously.
That's good.
It's like I was glad to see that like it doesn't really... Like, that's why it was great, because I knew this show going in, there could be very much a group of people who would be, rightfully so, possibly upset with this series.
Well, there are.
Yeah.
They were.
But
that was the thing that happened.
But it's not, luckily from what I've seen, it's not a show that is just, like, looking to demonize a group. It takes a generally well-established, I guess, religion and pokes fun at it and kind of turns it into almost like a... I want to say it's almost like a business. Like they Heaven and Hell.
It does look kind of like a business comedy.
Yeah, Heaven and Hell are run like businesses, and they're like, oh, I don't want to do all this paperwork.
Which is funny, given John Hamm playing an angel. Actually,
he's great in it too.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a lot of time. And I thought that what's his name?
Jack Whitehall.
Oh yeah, he was great. He was great in the movie. That and the movie show. And, shoot. I already mentioned Frances McDormand. She was great, too. I just didn't love the witch storyline.
Okay.
That one got a little weak, and the kids started to get a little annoying. There's the one girl who's part of this kid's group kind of has a lot of jokes that just fall flat. They also don't fit with the general tone of the story.
Okay.
But the Four Horsemen are great, too. They were really cool.
Fun.
Yeah. The Rocketeer is an obscure... superhero movie based on a comic from, it's not Marvel or DC, but it's weird considering it's a Disney movie from 91. So it was a superhero movie based on a comic book before Disney bought Marvel. It's really good. It's really underrated. Nobody talks about it. Is
it an animated movie?
No, it's live action.
It's live action?
It's got Timothy Dalton as the bad guy.
What?
And it stars
That's awesome.
Somebody I'm not sure. The biggest star is Timothy Dalton as the bad guy, and Jennifer Connelly plays the love interest.
Okay.
It also has Alan Arkin in it briefly, but it's worth checking out. It's very much your classic like superhero serial because it takes place during World War II.
Oh, okay.
And it's filmed like a classic '40s adventure serial. That's really what it's meant to be. You know, like those like the
neat.
That's the same style as what the first Captain America was, which makes sense considering it's the same director.
What?
Yeah.
What is happening with this movie that like nobody knows about it, but there's so much talent behind it?
There's a lot of talent. It's a great movie. No one's really seen it, but it's really great.
That's funny.
It's got a lot of charm and a lot of heart to it, and it feels just like your classic 40s hurrah, we saved America type thing that you don't really see a lot now.
No, yeah, the days of that are gone.
Yeah, the days of that are really gone. I highly recommend checking it out. It gets a lot of that good old classic American patriotism, and it also, if you like the first Captain America movie, it's very similar. Okay. Not as much action as the first Captain America, but in terms of tone, it's very similar.
Neat.
Memento, I know, being a film production major, and
you're supposed to have loved it.
I'm supposed to have loved this movie, and I didn't.
Was this an issue with the novelty, or was it just the?
I will give Nolan credit that this movie, the script, must have been really difficult to write.
Well, I actually disagree entirely. There's a cut of this movie that is just a straight.
Oh yeah, I've heard about the
straight through cut, and I think like it was all about the editing. Yeah. Like the editing is the only reason that this movie is good.
It's an interesting concept. I'll say that, but I got confused a lot.
Yeah.
Once you know the ending, you're always like, you kind of guessed it. I guess you kind of know the ending from the beginning. You just have to think about it.
A little bit.
The acting's great, but at the same time, I was also just kind of felt like I was just like, why am I sitting here?
Yeah.
Like this, why am I sitting through this? But Guy Pearce was great. At the same time, it's also frustrating because they're always just like, can we just give me some answers? I've been waiting so long.
Yeah, I think that movie doesn't work without Guy Pearce's performance.
No.
Like his performance sells the whole thing.
I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy who plays
his friend,
the undercover cop or whatever his name
is.
He's really good. Yeah. And Carrie-Anne Moss, she was evil in that movie.
Yes, she was.
She
does that pretty well.
Yeah, I didn't love it. I thought it was fine. It definitely doesn't match the heights of Nolan's later career, but it is impressive that they were able to pull it off.
I don't like it as much as I like, Inception.
I don't like it as much as Inception, The Dark Knight trilogy, Interstellar.
I think I like it a little better than I like Batman Begins. I'll say that.
Well, I will say I'm still looking forward to Tenet, though. I hope Tenet's good.
Yes, Tenet, I'm really excited because I think we've all been waiting for Nolan to do time travel.
Yeah.
John David Washington, how am I blanking on his name? Alfred.
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine. Michael Caine is just going to be in it, and he's going to be, he's going to be very emotional. It's going to be a great movie. Like, there's no...
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be great. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I hope it's good. I had to saw the teaser before Hobbs and Shaw.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it doesn't really show anything.
I'm sure it doesn't.
Yeah. It really just shows John David Washington like looking at 2 bullet holes in a window, and it says, "Time has come for a new protagonist," or a new type of protagonist, or something like that. "Time has come for a new kind of mission," and then shows like police breaking down a door or something, and then it ends. Yeah.
Interesting.
I had heard a theory that it might be connected to Inception.
That would be cool if like DiCaprio makes a cameo at the end or something.
I think it could very well be connected because it also it has like a time element to it.
A lot of people are saying that this is kind of like Inception, but time travel basically is the idea.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Anyway, back on this. What We Do in the Shadows.
I really like this movie.
I at first was like, I don't know, and then it really grew on me.
Yeah, I will say the guy who becomes a vampire isn't my favorite.
No, he's not.
It's really Taika Waititi and the rest of the vampire guys are really what sell the movie for me.
And I love the subtle humor. Like there isn't a lot of gross out gags. It's a lot of just like cheeky lines or things that just they just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like I was teaching him Facebook, and he's Vlad the poker, and he's like, "Oh, you can poker." And he just looks at the camera and looks back. Like I thought that was funny.
Yeah, no, they did the documentary. It's definitely like The Office, but with vampires. But it's in New Zealand. Yeah. So and I thought it was excellent.
And I thought the element of the she's like when he wants to be with that woman, turns out she was like 100 years old.
Oh yeah.
He's like, I am 3,000 years old or something like that. Yeah.
This is so good. That movie's great. John Wick 3.
John Wick 3 was great. The action, just as I was saying with Mission Impossible, the action is still great as ever. It's mostly all practical. There's no shaky cam. It's all in your screen. Okay. Granted, it's not as good as the first 2.
Okay.
I think it has the best opening of any of them. It has a great opening. It's basically a race against time.
Okay.
It still has the world building. However, without spoilers, there's a brief trip to Africa or like some Middle Eastern country.
Okay.
And it really brings the pace to a halt. It also feels really out of place considering John Wick to me was always this grounded gritty assassin movie in New York. Or Chicago, wherever it is.
Yeah.
And it kind of just ditches that to go global.
Okay.
Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But it was still pretty good. It's got some great action scenes. Adds more humor than I thought they were going to add.
Okay.
Towards the end.
Interesting.
But my biggest complaint is that it ends exactly the way it starts. There's really no character arc.
Okay.
And there really isn't any advancement of the plot. I guess there's a little bit of a character arc, but at the same time, that character arc is to be continued in the next one.
I see.
With these John Wick movies now, they're kind of just leaving it as and the next time, almost like a TV show, on the next episode of John Wick, they're not really...
Interesting. They're just sort of taking it as a given that we'll make another one.
Here's 2 hours of John Wick being John Wick, and then it'll start here at the end of the last one and just kind of keep going with some plot. They're basically television episodes.
Yeah.
The 4th one, I hope is good. I just hope they quit while they're ahead because these movies are still great.
Yes.
But I want 4 to at least end the current plot.
Yes.
Because right now...
are they still on the same sort of story arc?
I mean...
To some degree?
It's...
I mean, it is kind of like they killed his dog, therefore he's just...
No, I mean, it's after that, now that he's out of... Without spoilers, it's basically after the dog was killed in the first one, he came out of retirement to kill all those people. The second one with the consequences of him coming out of retirement. This movie is the consequences of him dealing with what he did at the end of the last one.
I see.
And so, the third one, and in addition to probably the plot of the 4th one, is still consequences for doing what you did in the second one.
Interesting.
And in advance, basically the consequences. It's all about consequences, really.
Okay.
But it's the action's what they're really going for. It's filmed great. I never thought I'd see Keanu Reeves kill somebody with a book silently in the a library. There's literally a library fight scene that is done very quietly.
Interesting. Neat.
Yeah. Armageddon was cheesy, very Michael Bay.
Michael Bay, yeah.
But it was a good time.
Good. The Mummy trilogy, how'd you feel about it?
Mummy trilogy, first one's great. Very much a classic adventure style movie. Second one kind of gets a bit bloated by trying to do too much at once, but it's still pretty fun. The third one gets a lot of extra flack. It's fine. It goes to China because money, rather than being in Middle East, or Egypt or wherever it was. But it's still a good time. I recommend checking them out. They're better than the Tom Cruise version, which is something I don't say very often. They're good, but definitely keep in mind that after the first one, they're not going to be as good as the first one.
Yeah.
3 is fun, but it's a lot more CG, and they also recast the role of Evie. It was Rachel Weisz in the first 2, and now it's somebody else that I can't remember. Or maybe it wasn't. Oh, I'm going to look that up on IMDb real quick, because I can't believe that I don't know that. But yeah, the movie is... it's kind of like basically proto-Indiana Jones.
Interesting.
Like, I mean, you can basically see the...
see, like, the beginnings of Indiana Jones.
You can see the Indiana Jones influence in the movie.
Neat.
Yeah. It was Rachel Weisz in the first 2 and Maria Bello in the third one.
Okay. Neat.
Yeah.
Weird, but neat.
Yeah, it's good. Check them out. I think they're on Netflix right now. So.
Okay. Yeah. And then The Boys Season 1. This is sort
of...
The
Boys was fantastic.
Okay.
Probably my... Okay, now it's a close second. I guess it's really a tie, if not a close second, to my favorite thing I watched this summer.
Yeah.
It's really an interesting take. Most people are just like, oh, it's just another superhero show, but this time they're the bad guys or something.
Yeah.
Now, the plot may be, I guess, not the most original. The characters are great. The world they set up is great. And it's a world where the superheroes are all owned by this company called Vought Enterprises.
Interesting.
And so basically they have demographics and I guess what's the approval ratings and everything. Yeah.
It's more political than...
But they've all let fame go to their heads, so they're all just really terrible people. All for different reasons.
That's kind of the whole pitch, is never meet your heroes.
Yeah. And each one has something different. I will say, it's not for the faint of heart. It's very violent. There's also there's a sexual harassment scene that they did cut down from the comic. It's much worse than the comic.
Yeah.
However, it's still really jarring in the show, especially if you don't know it's coming, because it was like, oh, I didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are moments and episodes that will make you angry based on subject material, based on there are people in this show who are similar to people in real life, and you're gonna see it and be like, because it's there's also
it's just that kind of
they're just it's so close to it, that you just get frustrated by it. But the characters are really likable, and Carl Urban is excellent. Also, I can't remember her name, but the lady who does Starlight, the superhero Starlight, she is amazing.
Okay.
And again, I can't remember his name, but the guy who plays Homelander. Every time he was on screen, I was always nervous, because the dude makes you uneasy. He's basically that world's version of Superman. As if you crossed Captain America and Superman together. So he's got the powers of Superman, but the whole red, white, and blue thing of Captain America.
Okay, yeah.
And he's also meant to be the satire on the whole, good truth, justice, and the American way type superhero things.
That's funny.
They also deal with superheroes in the military. That's the big underlying plot thing, is if we allow superheroes in the military, are we basically just outsourcing national defense to another company because they're owned by a company?
Yeah.
That's an interesting plot point. And then there's a cliffhanger at the end. I guess it's not at the end. It's not even a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Where they deal with briefly in some episodes, slight spoiler but not much, of terrorists with superpowers. And is that going to result in this needing...
Interesting.
Season 2 has already been confirmed.
Neat. I will say, if you liked this concept, I think you would be interested to see a different take on this kind of superheroes living in the real world kind of thing. Yeah. In My Hero Academia. They don't touch on it as much in the first season. Like, you get the kind of general gist of things in the first season, but in the second season, they really start to sort of tackle, like, there's a scene, like, you know, they kind of have a bunch of female superheroes wearing, you know, kind of scantily clad outfits or sort of like sexually suggestive stuff.
They address that in the book.
Yeah, well, and they have, like, they're on a talk show talking about this, and it's like, oh, but my powers require me to do this. And so there's a bunch of stuff like that in the show, and, like, superheroes are sort of sponsored by various different companies and stuff like that. So I think it's...
check it out.
Yeah, I think you would... given that you like this show so much, it's more sort of like from a teen perspective, but the show is really great anyways. Yeah. And and there's like a lived-in world aspect to it.
I will say, now, this could make some people uncomfortable with the show, but it's just that even though a lot of these characters have flaws, and they're very bad flaws for a lot of them, they try to make you at least understand why and feel for these characters, and seeing that maybe some of them weren't always so bad, they just made some mistakes down the line or something, or like these corporations of the companies turn them this way. Like, the one thing is, there's a character called the Deep, who he's basically the meant to be the spoof of Aquaman. He does something early on in the pilot episode, I think it was the pilot episode, that is not good, but at the same time, they're also trying, from what I can see, to set up a somewhat of a redemption arc. Yeah. And I don't know how that's going to fly with some people. Pun intended. It's going to be interesting to see how they pull that off. It's also addresses briefly, and I thought it was interesting that they pulled this off, especially with the whole superheroes, like, outfit things, where there's one moment where Starlight is the name of the superhero. She has, like, light powers, and in order to attract more of a audience to her that's not just her core audience, they change her superhero outfit into something more skimpy.
Oh, and
weird. She goes to, like, some convention, like, you know, autograph signing thing. Yeah. And there's this little girl who comes up to her who's really happy to meet her, and then says, like, I haven't gotten the new costume yet, though, because it's too expensive for me yet. And she says, like, don't worry, I like the other one better anyway. But as she's talking to this little girl, there's these two other guys off to the side who are yelling things at her and things that I'm not going to repeat on the show. But they address the fact that, like, that a lot of the fact, especially with the female superheroes, is that a lot of the time, that even though they made you just as powerful, they're using that to the advantage to sell more. And it kind of digs into that whole thing of, this is not just saving the world, it's also about selling an appearance or selling to other people.
Selling a brand.
Yeah, selling a brand, or it's you don't have to just be you and be a hero. You have to appease the investors. You have to make sure you don't have any legal issues.
Which kind of is like, at that point, why do I want to watch it? Because it's like, the whole point of being a superhero is, like, you do it because it's right. Like that. I think it's interesting.
And as dark as this show sometimes gets, it's got some really funny moments. Okay. But it's almost like nihilistic at times. It's like, I guess the way I described it to people I was talking to was, it is the most messed up, nihilistic, cynical show I've ever watched, but it's also simultaneously one of the funniest I've ever watched. Okay. It's just don't go in expecting it to be like the Avengers. You're not gonna get that.
No, it's not good. By the trailers, you can tell it's not going to be like the Avengers. So what was your favorite thing?
The best thing that I watched over the summer, and before I get to this, I did rewatch Spider-Verse, but I've already talked about that on here before, so I don't need to say it again. I watched Stranger Things Season 3. My favorite thing of the summer. I absolutely adore this show. I did not love Season 2, but this was much better than Season 2. Yeah. Still not as good as Season 1, but it was amazing. I love these characters. That's the best part about the show, is the characters are great. These kids are still great actors too. I was not expecting some of the emotional range they were able to have. Yeah. Surprisingly emotional. It's very 80s.
Yes, that's kind of the pitch.
Yeah, there's some, like, most of this season is spent in a mall, and it's very much like your mall rats 80s type
Interesting.
thing. Yeah, it's... I know some people had issues with the season, that it added a lot more humor than season 1 had.
Okay.
Personally, I thought it worked with the characters, because these are kids you gotta keep in mind. And a lot of these 80s movies had that humor as well as the seriousness. To me, it fit just like a normal 80s movie. Yes, there is more humor than there was in season 1, but I wouldn't say there's more than there was in season 2. It fits with the characters. Also, this is meant to be summertime for them, so they're going to be a little bit more loose because it's summer. It's no longer during the school year.
Interesting.
Yeah. If you have Netflix...
Yeah. I forgot that it took place during the school.
If you have Netflix, watch this show. It is absolutely worth watching. There's not that many episodes. It's like 8 episodes a season.
And you've got limited time because Disney Plus comes out in a little bit, and we're all canceling our Netflix subscriptions after that.
It's the... I can't stress enough how much... Like, I was watching the show, and even I finished it in, like, 2 days, and was thinking about it for weeks afterwards. Yeah. About how much I love these characters. It is an amazing show. I cannot stress enough that, like, even if you don't have Netflix, it's worth just buying a 2-month subscription just to watch this show.
Nice.
Yeah. That about covers what I have. What do you have on yours?
So I've got kind of a shorter list, because I spent much of this summer playing JRPGs. That was kind of my big project, was I'm just going to play a bunch of JRPGs, and it wasn't even that, like, I intended to do that. It was just, like, all of the games I wanted to play were JRPGs.
Yeah.
I'll start with, I watched a Will Smith movie, or not Will Smith, Will Ferrell movie. Very different people.
Yeah, very different movie.
Stranger Than Fiction, starring Will Ferrell, Maggie Gyllenhaal, Emma Thompson. There's another sort of headline actress, I don't remember her name, but and I thought it had a lot of heart. And I thought it was one of them. It was one of those movies that I walked away from thinking, like, this movie just has one of the biggest souls in the history of cinema in a way that I rarely ever get to see from a movie. The one problem I had with it was that I know who Will Ferrell is. I know his shtick, and so seeing him just show off his acting chops a little bit makes it harder for me to engage emotionally with the movie, because I can't. It's hard for me to take it seriously.
To get past it being Will Ferrell.
Yeah. But I still thought it was great. The way that they sort of the concept, if you don't, it's not really a spoiler to say. The concept is that there's a like Emma Thompson's character is a novelist who is writing a story. And what's happening, though, is as she's typing the story, there's a real person living out that life, that exact same life. Like, their name is the same, all of that, and that's Will Ferrell's character. And so, and sort of right at the beginning, Emma Thompson is narrating sort of as his life is going on, and he can hear her, and she says something like, little did he know these were his last days, so something like that, like his imminent death was approaching or something like that. And so he, like, in the middle of the street, he's like, wait, what? And so he goes on this quest, and I thought it was really really good, and Will Ferrell is really good in the movie. It's just hard seeing Will Ferrell. Is it got
comedy elements? Or?
It's funny. Like, there's definitely some funny moments, but I would say it's a lighthearted drama. Like, it's more like along the lines of like it's more Guardians 2 than Guardians 1.
Interesting.
If you can,
I get what
if
you
you see
mean.
what. So I watched that. I thought it was pretty great. I feel like I saw something else, but I'm not remembering it. So I'll just hop into the various JRPGs I've played. I've beaten this game before, but I played Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. It's the GameCube.
That game is expensive.
That game is super expensive. My grandparents own a copy from when I was like 12.
Oh.
Like they got it like back when the GameCube was still in.
Yeah.
And so I'm like lucky to have a copy of it, kind of thing.
I want to keep a hold of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I played through most of that, and I will say it's got one of my favorite casts in any Fire Emblem game. And I would say Ike is probably my favorite protagonist. Maybe not my favorite character, but...
That reminds me, we didn't even address... we never addressed the Banjo coming to...
oh yeah, Banjo's coming to Smash. Good job. Good job, Nintendo. So Fire Emblem Path of Radiance was great, and then sort of while I was playing that, I was also playing through a series called The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel. Mm-hmm. It's a PS3 JRPG series, and so I was playing the PS4 re-releases. They came out for like $50 each, and they came with like all of the DLC and stuff, so that was cool. I will say they're a little bit sort of typical kind of like Sword Art Online anime, where it's like you have the one male protagonist and then, a few other male characters, but then like primarily like just this female cast that kind of surrounds itself around the male character.
Yeah, your typical anime girl type thing.
And the actual core story is kind of lacking because it feels very much like kind of a sort of mishmash of various different genres, and you have like warships, and the main character has like a Super Saiyan transformation, and there's a lot of stuff like that
very
in
anime.
there. Yeah, it's very anime, but I will say the world and the politics are actually really interesting in both games, and and there are like, it's kind of got that Lord of the Rings element where it's like the world is really just filled out.
Yeah.
Even though like the actual environments that you're playing in aren't necessarily that detailed and stuff, but the actual like the cutscenes and the story is actually really kind of grand in a way, and so I really liked it, and I'm excited for. I don't know if I'm gonna play the third one when it comes out. Probably not, but when I do get around to the third one, what's interesting is that they're kind of moving on from the old cast. Like some of the old cast will still be around, but they're introducing a new cast where like they're like relatives of characters that you've met previously who were maybe like high-ranking officials or something like that, and so now they're like military students, because the whole concept is that like military students sort of become involved in the political kind of landscape. And there's like in the second one it's very different because it doesn't take place at school anymore. And then the third one is the main character goes back to school, and he was like a year behind just because of stuff that happened in the first and second games. And so he is sort of leading this new class, and there are names that if you've played the first two games, you look at the new characters and you're like, interesting, that's like a relative of this guy that you didn't get to know very well, but you know that he's like a famous person or something. So I thought that was so I had a really good time with them. They're kind of typical JRPG battle systems and random encounters and that sort of thing, but they did come with a turbo mode, which was nice. I always find because I was like, I'm never gonna play with this, and then you're like, you turn it on for long enough, and there's no going back.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought they were both great. I'd recommend them. If you got nothing else to do, because there's a ton of better things to play. But if you're looking for a solid JRPG, I'd say go for it. But first, I would play Tales of Berseria. So I had played probably a good 13 hours of it last summer, but then I really dug my heels into Persona 5, and so that really just kind of took up all my time. And so I finally got around to playing and beating Tales of Berseria this year, and man, what a terrific game. That was one of the most you hear a lot of talk about how nobody likes female protagonists or anything like that. This is how you do a really good female protagonist in a video game. She was dynamic. The story really revolved around her in a way that I thought was Velvet is one of the best Tales protagonists I've ever seen.
And that's rare in an anime type game.
Yeah.
A lot of the time they're
male characters with a bunch of women around them who are falling all over them and stuff like that. And I thought Velvet Crow and the cast of this game is absolutely terrific. There's no the one thing I would say is that there's no real moral center. There's one character who keeps all of the other characters from going totally bananas basically, but there's no actual good guy. Which is kind of the point, because the whole idea is that you're playing, the whole point by the end is that the only circumstance in which these characters are good guys is this one. And I don't think it's a real spoiler to say that the bad guy's goal towards the end is to basically eliminate human fault. And the good guy's argument is fault is what makes us human. You can't really take that away from.
It's an interesting concept.
It's basically to take away sadness, you have to take away happiness.
Yeah.
Is the idea. And I thought, and it's also a prequel to one of the previous Tales games, which I really liked Tales of Zestiria, but I thought it was a little too sort of standard, kind of hero's journey JRPG. And so I thought, but it made scenes in Tales of Zestiria even better because there are characters from Berseria that are in Zestiria, so you've got just tons of little references, and you go to towns, and it's 1,000 years ago prequel, so it's not exactly but there are literal there's a character named Zavid who's literally just in both of them, and he's a fantastic character.
Is he an immortal character?
So the world that these games are set in is one where there are humans, and in Berseria they call them Malakim. I forget what they call them I think they call them Seraphim in Zestiria, but so there are humans and Malakim, and Malakim live for thousands of years, but depending on basically kind of the state of humanity at that point, they can and can't see them from time to time. So in Zestiria, most people can't see Malakim, but in Berseria they can. And so Zavid is a character who lives for thousands of years because he's a Malakim. And there are actually a bunch of characters, and the end is basically there's a character in Zestiria who's named Mautellus, and you find out at the end of Berseria who that was. And I thought that was actually really great. And the game is really there's a shot of that's a spoiler. The game is really good at just knowing what it was going for the whole time, but still taking you on a real journey with these characters. And you start in one place and end up like in one place with Velvet, who's the main character, and she goes through a lot of stuff, and at the end you find yourself in this really weird place where it's like you weren't a good person, and I don't know if you really are, but I really relate to you on some level, and I was in tears at the end. I'll say that it was really great. I would even, if you're looking for something really fulfilling, I would say play it before you play Persona 5. Even though Persona 5, I would say, is better than this game. But if you're looking for like a really, in terms of just like story-wise, I'd say this game beats it out.
Well, Nier is still at the top of my list.
Yes, Nier is still, the far and away better than any of that. But still, Tales of Berseria was absolutely fantastic. And then I think the last, unless I'm really forgetting something, the last game I wanted to mention was Fire Emblem Three Houses. Now, I've only played one of the stories, and I want to get through the other ones, but there's so much to play. Yeah. So it's the first thing I'll say about it is that it really is Persona Fire Emblem. Like that's the whole. They've said as much. Like they have a kind of week by week, like you choose how to spend your time and character relationships and stuff like that. Whereas in previous Fire Emblem games, there were elements of that where you like kind of had to choose who to pair up and how that would affect the stories and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But this game, I thought I played. Again, I only played one of the storylines, and the only issue I had with it was that I didn't actually get an explanation of like why the enemies were doing what they were doing. Mm-hmm. Now, part of that is that the enemies are characters from the other pathways you choose. Oh, okay. So it's like
you have to play all three to understand the whole thing.
And so I was like, so something's happening I'm just not getting here. Because you don't, like, there's a whole character that you have to, like, kind of go save, but you never see her after the time skip. There's a time skip. Oh, okay. That's not a spoiler. You have no reason why there's a time skip. Yeah, I think one of the best things it does, though, is it really... And I think my favorite thing about JRPGs is that they really, especially the ones, sort of the new age ones, where they have just like fully voiced cutscenes, and especially Tales games. This is kind of why I love Tales games, is they give you just a ton of time with these characters that you actually don't get to have in something like movies and TV. Yeah. And
you get to basically live with them.
Yeah, you live with them. You get to see what they do from time to time. And even if they kind of do it in a really anime way, you start to grow this connection where you actually really feel connected to these characters in a way that I don't even feel that connected with a character like Captain America. And it's like, I've been with that character for a really long time now, but I wouldn't say I know him that well. Yeah. Aside from, I know his personal philosophy, and I know sort of the way that he would conduct himself in certain situations. Yeah. But I don't know what he does on a Tuesday. Yeah. And I know what a bunch of these JRPG characters do.
It always surprises me that Fire Emblem is a Nintendo first-party IP.
I think it's a first-party IP. The company who develops it is second-party.
Yeah. But, like, being a first-party IP, it always, like, surprised me that, like, this is a Nintendo exclusive. It just never really seems like a Nintendo game.
No, it doesn't. But I also think it... I think it really lends itself to a Nintendo audience who's looking for something just ever so slightly more thoughtful than like Mario, because Fire Emblem games always require you, even when you're like not paying attention, you still have to pay attention a little bit.
It was to be like in the game.
Yeah, and it's I did like that. I'm not the biggest fan of giving the maybe the one issue I have is that you're given a character who you don't really get to change except for the name, really, and like you get like a birthday setting, and
you probably get like an in-game birthday perk or something when you have your birthday.
Yeah, there's that, and you know, you could change like how good they are at certain things, but the main character doesn't talk, and you know, to some degree that's fine, especially because, you know, it'd be hard to have like six different, it'd be hard to have like six different voice actors for one character per story. Like it'd be really hard. So especially since like I think it's fully voiced. I don't think there are a few sort of standardized conversations where they don't actually say the words. It's just like, how are you? And then the text says what they're actually saying, that kind of thing. So it is kind of weird because it's like that character makes some very specific choices along the way that maybe I wouldn't make. And so it's just kind of like, I would prefer it if it had just been, you know, I'm trying to think of a, you know, give it to somebody like Matt Mercer to just do the voice of the male variant, and then just let that be sort of his own thing, and give it to like Laura Bailey to be the voice of the female character, and just sort of let it rest rather than do the silent protagonist thing. I just think is kind of dated at this point.
Yeah.
Tales of Xillia 2 did it pretty well because it didn't really matter. Like, you were still getting funneled through. Like, it was very clear. Like, this isn't you.
Yeah.
But he doesn't talk. It's basically the whole. Whereas I felt like Fire Emblem Three Houses didn't juggle that very well. I still really liked it, though. I don't want to sound like I didn't like it. I really enjoyed my time with it. I was thinking a lot about it. I was really invested in the characters. I will say I liked the kind of there's a kind of romance has been part of Fire Emblem for a really long time now. They really sort of upped the aspect of it with Awakening and Fates in recent years. They really brought it back. So like there's an aspect of that in this, which I still really liked, but it's like a payoff rather than something that just kind of happens over the course of the story. Mm-hmm. So I really liked that, but I would highly recommend it if you have a Switch, and you've got
do many people.
Yes, and it's you know, and I think summer's a really good time to play a JRPG.
Or winter too.
Yeah, winter break is kind of suspect. I did play Final Fantasy 15 over winter, but it was like but I always find that winter is better for like holiday games. Like winter is like my Pokemon time.
For me, winter is like when I'm going to dive into like a Mass Effect or a Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead, something like that.
So I would, but you know, I would say that JRPGs have heart in a game industry that is losing it very rapidly.
Well, they're also not made here. Most
they are made here, but I would say even the Japanese game industry is losing a little bit of its soul.
Yeah.
So
speaking of that, one thing is, to kind of go along with that before we wrap it
Yeah.
up, was in terms of games industry losing its soul, of the fact that NBA 2K20 literally has a slot machine in it.
What's weird is you may have watched the same video where the Young was comparing the ratings to Pokemon.
Yeah.
Pokemon has like a Peggy 12 or something like that for like literally just portraying a slot machine.
Yeah.
And this is like super old Pokemon where like you can't even actually pay for the coins.
Yeah.
Whereas like you're actually
this is literal gambling.
Well, so the explanation given is that like the actual like gambling stuff is not, you can't actually pay for that. Is what I
you pay for the online currency and then you pay for that.
Well, no. You pay for the cards. Like there's the card packs that you open that you do pay for.
Yeah.
And those are loot boxes, and those are obviously gambling anyways.
Yeah.
But the but like the actual like slot machines, ball drop, roulette things, you like are rewards from just playing the game, I guess.
No, I haven't heard a lot about it. I'm not really. I don't think either of us play a lot of NBA 2K.
No, we don't. I just think like if there is an online currency and you're paying for stuff that is not guaranteed, there needs to be protections for children.
Also, they should not be game breaking. I think.
No.
I don't like.
They are now.
Yeah, like I don't like how like. I don't have a problem if it's like a multiplayer free-to-play game that has them. Yeah. Like if Fortnite put them in, or if PUBG, I guess PUBG's not free-to-play, but like something like that, that's fine to me. When you're playing already for a $60 game, and on top of that, they're charging you, 25 cents to buy a skin or something like that, that's ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
Like, I would much rather...
Well, and they're charging more than 25 cents for a skin.
Well, the games back in the day used to do that. Nowadays, it's like $3 for a skin?
More than that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, it's... I miss the... Like, I would much rather just be, oh, hey, every 6 months we're going to have another massive expansion. You pay $10 and you get the massive expansion. I'd rather have that than just getting nickel and dime and everything, because it's also more confusing. That was my main complaint I didn't mention with Injustice 2 was... There's 4 different currencies and none of it makes any sense, and then there's random gear drops, and it's like for me,
I never got into the gear system.
The only reason that I bought Injustice 2 was so I could play the story and then with a couple of friends do some battles in the co-op mode.
Yeah.
I'm not even really having touched the multiverse mode because the gear to me doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like same thing with Battlefront 2. Like I think Battlefront 2's got great co-op, it's got great arcade, the multiplayer is fun. But I'm not even going to bother touching that.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you.
The loot crates or whatever they are.
That's so weird.
To me, it just screams like I don't like to feel like I'm playing a mobile game on my TV. I don't like.
Yeah, no, that's sort of why I like. Why I think a lot of people, when they heard that something like Final Fantasy VII was going to be episodic, air quotes there, they thought they were gonna start nickel and diming you. Thankfully, they're taking kind of the opposite direction, where they're just spending a lot of time in one section of the game rather than just kind of making a bare bones product and selling it. Whereas like Avengers, what we're all worried about is that we are going to get nickel and dimed.
I'm so worried that game's going to end up like a Destiny or a Battlefront or something like that.
I don't necessarily have an issue with it being like a Destiny, because Destiny, at least it's all contained within the game.
Yeah.
Like Battlefront 2, the large problem was that it was definitely pay to win. After you paid $60 to even just be able to open the game.
You would have had to spend like 200 hours just to unlock Vader.
Yeah, which is stupid. Like you should be able. It's a Star Wars game. You should be if Vader is in the game, you should be able to play as him pretty quickly, right? Like.
Yeah, that's a topic for another day.
Yeah, that's
probably a topic for next week, actually.
Yes. Yeah. I'm combing my mind just to think of anything else I played. I've been sort of playing a bunch of Pokemon games on and off, but I don't really care about talking about that.
Congratulations to people who are listening for making it through a 2.5 hour episode.
One last thing. Go watch David Tennant as Doctor Who. It's really good.
Like the old episode?
Well, so the reason I bring this up is I went to see in the theaters they were playing David Tennant's last 2 episodes as the Doctor because it's a 2-parter.
The End of Time?
Yeah, The End of Time. They were playing that in theaters. I went to see it, and I was very happy with my experience.
Even for, like, myself, I'm not a huge Doctor Who fan, but I watched the Tennant and Smith eras.
Oh, yeah?
And they were great.
Yeah, it was terrific.
I mean, the production values aren't very high, but they're fun.
Well, but even in The End of Time, I would say...
the main regular episodes don't have it.
Yeah, that's true.
The specials have it.
Well, although I will say they really upped the ante when they got to Matt Smith.
Yeah.
That's
for sure.
true.
It got popular here. But
yes.
yeah,
so anyways, thanks for listening to a 2.5 hour episode, no less.
Our beginning of the season extravaganza.
Yes, this is season 2.
Season 3.
What was season 3?
Season 2 was the start of Lab Rats. Season 1 was Cat.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It is season 3. It's 3. It's season 2 of the Lab Rats.
Season 2 of Lab Rats. Season 3 of our show.
Sawyer, can you tell us where we are?
So you can find us on social media at CastCate or at CASTCATE because we could not get rid of our old handle from the old show. But if you search the Lab Rats Entertainment Podcast, you'll still likely find us. We are at the Lab Rats Podcast on Instagram. We do not have a Facebook. And if you're looking for our show on platforms, you can either find us on wherever you're listening now, in addition to, let's count, see if I remember how to do it, Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, and Google Play Music. Or Google Play Podcast, whatever they call it now. I think that's it.
That's 6 of them. I think you're right.
Yes.
I think that's all of them. We might be missing one of them that you're listening on right now.
Yeah.
Please write into us and tell us that we're wrong.
Yeah, and if, like I said before, if there's any platform that's easier for you that you'd like us to be on, tweet at us or DM us on Instagram or whatever so that we can adjust it because it's pretty easy to put on other platforms. I just added Stitcher like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So yeah, do that. We'll hopefully be back next week. Hopefully Ahmad can stick around for the whole thing next week. And
we'll figure out what we're going to talk about, I'm sure.
Lots of stuff is going to happen. Lots of movies. Going to watch a bunch of things.
Yeah, and isn't PAX is coming up, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, PAX. Yeah,
so I'm sure we'll have news from PAX.
Yeah, PAX is always like the weird stragglers that didn't happen at Gamescom.
Yeah. Whatever didn't happen at E3 or Gamescom happens at PAX.
Happens at PAX, yeah.
Well, and then one last bit. I'm leaving you guys with this. Gameplay's out of Death Stranding, and there's a Norman Reedus P mechanic, and it's weird. I don't know how I feel about it.
Kojima went full Kojima.
Full Kojima, and now there is a press X to P button. It's...
We went from press X to pay respects
to press X to P.
So here
you already know, being a Kojima game, I'm going to be there day one.
Yes.
But that's what I will leave you all with.
Yes. Well, have a good week.
Thanks for watching
and listening. Really, don't watch us.
Yeah.
Listen. Bye.